In the soft stillness before the sun rises, when the sky is neither fully dark nor truly light, and the world feels as though it is gently holding its breath, the land of ancient Egypt rests beside the slow and endless waters of the Nile River, where everything moves in a quiet rhythm that is not changed for generations. The air is cool at this early hour, carrying a faint scent of damp earth and river reeds, and the wide water stretches calmly into the distance, reflecting the pale gray of the waking sky, while along its banks the dark soil lies still, rich and soft, waiting for the warmth of the day to return. There are no sudden sounds, no rushing footsteps, no loud voices calling out, only the distant murmur of water touching the shore and the occasional soft rustle of leaves as a light breeze passes slowly through the fields, as if the land itself is waking in its own gentle time. Inside a small house made of sun-dried mud bricks, where the walls hold the coolness of the night and the air feels calm and quiet, a man begins to wake, not suddenly, but slowly, as though he is rising along with the light itself, his eyes opening just enough to notice the faint glow that has begun to slip into the room. He does not move right away, because there is no need to hurry, and for a few long moments he simply listens to the quiet sounds around him, the stillness of the early morning, the soft breath of the world outside, and the steady sense that the day will come as it always does, without urgency and without demand. When he finally sits up, his movements are slow and familiar, shaped by many days that have begun in the same calm way, and as his feet touch the ground, he feels the cool surface beneath him, steady and reassuring, just as it has always been. He steps outside, and the sky has changed slightly now, holding a faint golden color near the horizon, while the rest of the world remains wrapped in soft shadow, and as he looks toward the river, he sees its wide surface glowing gently, as though it already knows the sun is on its way. Not far from him, another door opens, and a woman steps into the morning carrying a clay jar held close against her side, her movements quiet and steady, her presence part of the same peaceful rhythm that connects every person in this place. They do not speak, because words are not needed at this hour, and instead they share a simple awareness of each other, a quiet understanding that the day is beginning just as it always does, slowly and without interruption. As more doors open across the small village, the morning grows slightly more alive, though never loud, and thin lines of smoke begin to rise gently into the air as small fires are prepared for the first meal of the day, the scent of burning straw and dry wood drifting softly through the stillness. Children remain asleep inside their homes, wrapped in light linen cloth, their breathing slow and even, while the adults begin their work with calm purpose, each person moving at a pace that feels natural and unforced. The man begins to walk toward the river, following a narrow path that has been shaped over time by many quiet footsteps, the ground worn smooth and familiar beneath his feet. And as he walks, he notices the small details that are always there, the texture of the earth, the gentle sway of plants along the edges, the way the light slowly grows stronger with each passing moment. When he reaches the riverbank, he pauses, as he always does, standing still for a short time while looking out across the water. And in that moment, there is nothing he needs to do, nothing he needs to think about, only the simple act of being present as the day begins. He kneels down and places his hands into the water, feeling its coolness wrapped gently around his skin, and as he lifts it to his face, he lets it fall slowly, the sensation soft and refreshing, awakening him fully without any harshness. Nearby, others arrive in the same quiet way, a young boy walking slowly with sleepy eyes, an older woman carrying another vessel, a fisherman holding his net with practiced ease, and though they stand close to one another, there is little talking,
only the shared presence of people who understand this moment without needing to explain it. The sun begins to rise now, slowly appearing at the edge of the horizon, and its light spreads gently across the surface of the Nile River, turning the water into a soft golden mirror that moves with quiet grace. Back at the house, the woman has begun preparing the morning meal, kneeling beside a flat stone where she places grains that have been carefully stored, and as she begins to grind them into flour, her hands move in a steady back and forth motion that creates a soft, repeating sound, almost like a slow and calming rhythm that fills the air without disturbing it. The light grows stronger with each passing moment, warming the walls of the house and softening the shadows, while inside, a child begins to wake, sitting up slowly and looking around with calm curiosity before stepping outside to feel the ground beneath his feet. He watches his mother as she continues her work, the steady motion of her hands never changing, and there is something peaceful in this repetition, something that feels safe and familiar, as though the world itself is built on these small, quiet actions. In the fields beyond the village, farmers have already begun their work, walking slowly across the dark soil left behind by the yearly flooding of the Nile River, carrying simple tools that have been shaped and used over many years. They move without hurry, their steps even and measured, their attention focused on the land before them, understanding its needs not through words, but through long experience and quiet observation. The earth opens gently beneath their tools, preparing for the planting that will come, and nearby another farmer works in the same slow rhythm, their movements almost matching without needing to coordinate, as though they are guided by the same steady sense of time. As the morning continues, the village becomes slightly more awake, though never loud, and soft sounds fill the air as people begin the tasks of their daily lives, the turning of a potter's wheel, the gentle tapping of clay being shaped, the quiet weaving of linen threads passing through skilled hands. The sun climbs higher into the sky, and the warmth begins to settle over the land, not in a harsh way, but in a way that encourages slower movement, reminding everyone to take their time, to move with care, to let the day unfold as it always does. And in this slow and steady beginning, where nothing is rushed and everything follows a quiet and familiar rhythm, the people of ancient Egypt step gently into another day that feels much like the one before it and much like the one that will come after it, held together by the calm presence of the river, the land, and the soft light of the rising sun.
As the sun rises a little higher, and the soft gold of early light becomes a steady warmth across the land, the village settles into the quiet flow of its morning, where each person continues their work with calm attention, and nothing feels rushed or out of place. The man who stood by the river now walks back along the same narrow path, his steps unhurried, his body already familiar with the gentle rhythm of the day, and as he moves, he notices how the light now touches everything more clearly, revealing the textures of the earth, the small cracks in the ground, the delicate patterns left by water and wind over time. Behind him, the wide surface of the Nile River continues its slow movement, reflecting the brightening sky, its presence steady and constant, as though it watches quietly over everything that happens along its banks. When he reaches his home, the smell of fresh bread has begun to fill the air, soft and warm, carried gently by the morning breeze, and he pauses for a moment before stepping inside, allowing himself to take in the simple comfort of this familiar scent. Inside, the woman has shaped the ground grain into small flat pieces and placed them near the heat, where they begin to cook slowly, their surface changing as warmth spreads through them, and the child sits nearby, now fully awake, watching each step with quiet interest. There is no sense of instruction, no need for explanation, because learning happens here through watching, through repeating,
through being present in these small and steady moments that return each day. The man sits down on a low stool, his posture relaxed, and for a short time there is only the quiet sound of food being prepared, the faint crackle of fire, and the soft movements of hands working with care. When the bread is ready, they eat together. The meal is simple, but it is enough, and it is taken slowly, each bite unhurried, each moment allowed to pass without interruption, while outside the sounds of the village continue to grow gently, never becoming loud, only more present. After eating, the day continues without any clear division, as though one moment simply becomes the next without needing to be marked. The man returns to the fields, carrying his tool once again, while the woman begins other tasks within and around the home, and the child follows close behind, sometimes helping, sometimes simply observing, always learning in quiet ways. In the fields, the farmers continue their work under the now steady light of the sun, their movements careful and consistent, the soil turning slowly beneath their hands, and as they move, the scent of the earth rises softly into the air, warm and rich. Birds pass overhead from time to time, their wings cutting gently through the sky, and their calls echo faintly across the open land, adding to the soft sounds that fill the morning without disturbing its calm. A pair of oxen move steadily along the edge of a field, guided by a farmer who walks beside them with quiet focus, their pace slow and even, their steps pressing gently into the soil, leaving behind a path that will soon be used for planting. Nothing is forced, nothing is hurried, everything follows the same patient rhythm. Back in the village, the potter continues his work, his hands shaping the spinning clay with careful pressure, allowing the form to rise slowly beneath his touch. And as the wheel turns, the shape becomes clearer, a vessel that will soon hold water or grain, becoming part of someone's daily life. The soft hum of the turning wheel blends with the other quiet sounds around him, the distant voices carried lightly on the air, the gentle movement of fabric being woven, the faint clink of tools being set down and lifted again. Nearby, a woman sits beneath a shaded area, weaving linen with steady hands, her fingers guiding each thread into place with a practiced ease that comes from many days of the same work, and the fabric grows slowly, line by line, a quiet record of time passing. Children begin to gather in small groups, not in loud play, but in gentle movement, walking, watching, sometimes helping with simple tasks, sometimes tracing shapes in the dust with their fingers, their laughter soft and brief, never breaking the calm that surrounds them. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth becomes more noticeable, and the pace of movement naturally slows, not because of any rule, but because the body understands the rhythm of the day, adjusting without thought. The air feels heavier now, though still gentle, and the light brightens the colors of the land, the deep brown of the soil, the pale tones of the houses, the green edges of plants that grow close to the water. The Nile River continues its steady flow, its surface now brighter, reflecting the clear sky above, and along its edges, fishermen stand quietly, casting their nets with slow, practiced movements, allowing them to fall gently into the water. They wait patiently. There is no sense of urgency in their waiting. Time moves differently here. It stretches softly, allowing each moment to exist fully without pressure. One fisherman pulls his net back slowly, the water dripping quietly as it rises, revealing a small catch, enough to bring back to the village, enough to share, enough to continue the steady pattern of daily life. He does not rush to return. He takes his time, preparing his net again, standing quietly at the edge of the river, watching the water as it moves. Back in the fields, the man pauses for a moment, straightening his back and looking out across the land. And in this pause, there is no impatience, only a brief rest,
a chance to feel the warmth of the sun, to listen to the soft sounds around him, to exist without action. Then, just as gently, he returns to his work. The hours of the morning continue in this way, not marked by clocks or strict divisions, or by the slow movement of the sun across the sky, by the gradual shift of light and shadow, by the quiet understanding of when to work and when to rest. In the village, the fires burn low now, their purpose completed for the morning meal, and the smoke that once rose in thin lines has begun to fade, leaving behind only a faint scent in the air. The houses remain cool inside, offering a place to step away from the growing warmth, and from time to time someone enters briefly, not to hide from the day, but to move with it, to follow its natural rhythm. The child who watched the morning begin now carries a small task, walking carefully with a simple object in his hands, moving slowly so as not to drop it, learning balance, patience, and care in a way that feels natural and unspoken. The woman continues her work, shifting from one task to another without pause, each action flowing into the next, grinding, weaving, preparing, arranging, all done with quiet focus and steady hands. And through it all, the presence of the Nile River remains constant, its slow movement a silent guide to the passage of time, reminding everyone, without words, that life here is not something to be rushed, but something to be lived gently, one calm moment after another. As the morning begins to lean towards midday, the light grows stronger still, and the warmth settles more deeply into the land, signaling in its quiet way that soon there will be a pause, a soft slowing, a time to rest before the day continues again. And so the work carries on, steady and unbroken, as the people move calmly through their tasks, held within the same peaceful rhythm that began before the sun first touched the horizon, and that will continue long after it begins to fall again.
As the sun rises to its highest place in the sky and the light settles fully across the land, the warmth deepens in a quiet and steady way, wrapping itself around the fields, the village, and the slow-moving waters of the Nile River. And with this warmth comes a natural and unspoken understanding that the pace of the day will begin to soften. In the fields, the man slows his movements, not because he is told to, but because his body follows the rhythm it has always known. And he pauses once more, placing his tool gently into the soil, before stepping back and looking across the wide stretch of land that has slowly changed under his care throughout the morning. The earth now lies turned in careful lines, its surface warm beneath the sun, holding the promise of future growth, and for a few long moments he simply stands there, breathing slowly, feeling the stillness that has settled over everything. Nearby, other farmers begin to pause as well, each one reaching this moment in their own time, yet all guided by the same quiet sense of the day's rhythm. And without needing to speak, they begin to gather their tools, not in haste, but with calm and deliberate movement. The oxen that moved steadily along the edges of the fields are led gently to rest, their slow steps matching the softened pace of the people around them. And as they settle, the faint sounds of their movement blend into the warm and quiet air. Back in the village, the change is felt just as clearly. The steady work of the morning begins to ease, and the sounds that once filled the air, the turning of wheels, the grinding of grain, the weaving of threads, become less frequent, softer, as though they too are resting. The woman who has spent the morning moving from task to task now prepares for the midday meal, her hands still steady, but her movements slower, more relaxed, as she gathers what is needed and arranges it with quiet care. The child, who has followed the rhythm of the morning through small tasks and silent observation, now sits nearby,
his energy softened by the warmth, his attention drifting between the simple things around him, the movement of light across the ground, the faint sound of wind passing by, the distant shimmer of the river. Inside the house, the air remains cooler, the thick mud brick walls holding back the heat, creating a space where the body can rest without discomfort. And one by one, people step into this shade, not all at once, but gradually as the moment calls to them. When the food is ready, it is shared in the same quiet way as the morning meal. Simple bread, shaped by hand and warmed slowly, is placed before them, along with small portions of what has been gathered or prepared, perhaps a few dates, perhaps fish brought in from the Nile River earlier in the day. They sit close together, not speaking much, not needing to fill the silence, because the silence itself is comfortable, familiar, and complete. Each bite is taken slowly. Each moment stretches gently. There is no sense of needing to finish quickly, no thought of what must come next, only the quiet presence of the now, held within the stillness of midday. Outside, the village seems to rest. The paths are empty for a time, the movement of people paused, the air warm and still, carrying only the faintest sounds, a distant bird call, the soft shifting of leaves, the quiet presence of life continuing in its calm and steady way. Along the riverbank, even the fishermen have paused, their nets resting beside them as they sit in the shade, watching the water move slowly past, its surface bright beneath the sun, its motion unchanged by the heat of the day. Some lie back for a short rest, their eyes closing gently, their breathing slowing, while others remain seated, simply looking out across the water, their thoughts quiet, their bodies at ease. The Nile River continues as it always does, unaffected by the pause of human activity, its flow steady and unbroken, a quiet reminder that time does not stop but moves gently forward whether one is working or resting. In the shaded spaces between the houses, a few soft voices can be heard, low and calm, as people speak briefly, not in long conversations, but in simple exchanges that carry no urgency, no weight, only the quiet connection of shared life. Children rest as well, some lying down, others sitting quietly, their earlier energy softened by the warmth, their movements slower, their voices gentle and brief. The air itself feels different now, heavier with heat, yet still calm, still kind, not overwhelming, but encouraging stillness, encouraging rest, encouraging a pause in the steady unfolding of the day. Time seems to stretch in this moment. The sun remains high, its light strong and steady, casting short shadows that rest close to the ground, and everything appears almost suspended, as though the world has taken a long, slow breath and is holding it gently. Inside the house, the man leans back slightly, his body relaxed, his eyes half closed, not fully asleep, but resting in a quiet space between waking and dreaming, where thoughts drift slowly and without direction. The woman sits nearby, her hands now still, her work set aside for a short time, her attention soft, her breathing even, allowing herself this moment of calm before the day continues again. There is no need to measure this pause, no need to decide when it will end. It ends naturally, just as it began, guided not by time kept on any device, but by the gradual shift of light, by the slight cooling of the air, by the quiet signal that the day is ready to move forward once more. And slowly, almost without noticing, the stillness begins to change. A small movement here, a soft sound there. Someone rises, another follows. The child stands and steps outside, blinking gently in the bright light, feeling the warmth still present, but no longer as heavy. The man opens his eyes fully now, sitting upright once more, his body ready to return to the quiet work of the afternoon. The woman gathers what remains of the meal, her hands moving with the same calm care as before, her rhythm returning naturally without effort. Outside, the village begins to wake again, not from sleep, but from rest, and the soft sounds of life return, gradually filling the air once more. The pause has passed, the day continues, and just as the morning unfolded in its own gentle way, the afternoon begins to take shape, slowly, steadily, carried forward by the same peaceful rhythm that flows through the land, the people, and the ever-present waters of the Nile River.
As the stillness of midday gently fades and the warmth of the sun begins almost imperceptibly to soften, the village returns to its slow and steady rhythm, not with sudden movement, but with a gradual awakening of activity that feels as natural as the rising of the morning light. The air is still warm, yet no longer heavy, and a faint breeze begins to move once more across the land, carrying with it the soft scent of earth and water from the nearby Nile River, whose surface continues to shimmer quietly beneath the afternoon sun. One by one, people step back into their tasks. The man returns to the fields, walking the same narrow path he followed earlier, though now the light has changed, casting longer shadows that stretch gently across the ground, marking the slow passage of time in a way that feels calm and unhurried. His movements are steady, just as they were in the morning, but there is a softness to them now, a quiet ease that comes after rest, as though his body and the land are once again moving together in quiet understanding. He picks up his tool and begins again, guiding it through the soil with careful pressure, turning the earth in smooth, even motions, each movement flowing into the next without interruption. Nearby, other farmers have returned as well, each one continuing where they left off, their work forming a quiet pattern across the fields, a shared rhythm that needs no coordination, no spoken agreement, only the simple act of being present and attentive. The oxen rise slowly from their rest and begin to move again, their pace unchanging, their steps calm and deliberate as they follow the gentle guidance of the farmer beside them, the soft sound of their hooves blending into the quiet atmosphere of the afternoon. Back in the village, the potter sits once more at his wheel. The clay he shaped earlier has begun to set slightly, and with careful hands he continues his work, adding small adjustments, smoothing the surface, allowing the form to become more defined, more complete. The wheel turns slowly beneath his touch, its steady motion creating a soft, continuous sound that feels almost like a quiet heartbeat within the village, constant and reassuring. Not far away, the woman resumes her weaving. The threads move through her fingers with the same practiced ease, the fabric growing longer, line by line, each small addition part of a larger whole that takes shape over many hours, many days. There is no impatience in this work, no need to finish quickly. The process itself is enough. Children move gently through the spaces between the houses, their energy returning in small, quiet ways, their steps light, their voices soft, sometimes helping, sometimes simply watching, learning the patterns of life that surround them. One child carries a small bundle of reeds, placing them carefully near a wall, his movements slow and deliberate, focused on doing the task well rather than quickly. Another traces shapes in the dust with a stick, the lines forming and fading as the breeze passes lightly over the ground, leaving no lasting mark, only the quiet memory of a moment that has already passed. The afternoon light continues to shift, becoming softer with each passing moment, its brightness easing into a warm glow that touches everything gently, from the walls of the houses to the surface of the fields and the flowing water beyond. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen return to their work.
They stand quietly at the edge, their nets held loosely in their hands, and with slow, practiced movements, they cast them once more into the water, allowing them to fall gently, spreading across the surface before sinking below. They wait again, just as they did in the morning. There is no difference in their patience. Time remains soft here, stretching and folding in ways that do not demand attention. A small boat drifts slowly along the river, guided by a man who stands at its edge, using a long pole to move it gently through the water. The motion is smooth and quiet, the boat gliding forward without disturbance, its reflection moving alongside it in the calm surface of the river. He does not rush. There is nowhere he needs to be quickly. The journey itself is part of the rhythm, part of the day. Back in the fields, the man pauses again, not from exhaustion, but from habit, from awareness, from the quiet understanding that rest and work are not separate things, but parts of the same gentle flow. He looks out across the land, now touched by the softer light of the afternoon, and for a moment he simply stands, feeling the warmth, listening to the distant sounds, aware of the steady presence of everything around him. Then, just as naturally, he returns to his task. The hours pass in this way, slowly and without clear boundary. The work continues, but never feels heavy. The movements repeat, but never feel empty. Each action is part of something larger, something steady and unchanging, like the quiet flow of the Nile River that continues beside them. In the village, small fires are prepared again, not yet for the evening meal, but for simple tasks, heating, drying, shaping, each flame flickering gently in the softening light, its presence calm and contained. The smell of warm earth, clay, and faint smoke blends together in the air, creating a sense of place that feels deep and familiar, something that belongs to this land and to these people in a way that does not need to be spoken. As the afternoon begins to move toward evening, the light shifts once more, becoming softer still, the shadows growing longer, stretching across the ground in quiet lines that slowly change shape as the sun lowers in the sky. The pace of work begins to ease again, not suddenly, but gradually, just as it did at midday, guided by the same quiet rhythm that shapes every part of the day. Tools are set down gently, hands come to rest, movements slow. The farmers begin to gather what they need before leaving the fields, their steps calm and unhurried as they prepare to return to the village, carrying with them the quiet satisfaction of work that has been done with care. The fishermen lift their nets once more, the water dripping softly as they bring them in, and whatever they have gathered is enough, always enough, because the rhythm of the river continues day after day, providing in its own steady way. The potter lets his wheel slow to a stop, his hands resting lightly against the finished shape, while the weaver sets aside her work, the fabric left waiting to continue another day. And so, as the sun begins its gentle descent, the day starts to soften once again, moving toward the quiet calm of evening, where the light fades slowly and the steady rhythm of life prepares to rest.
As the sun begins its slow descent toward the edge of the land, the light over the fields and the village changes in a way that feels gentle and almost quiet in itself, as though the brightness of the day is slowly being folded away, leaving behind a softer glow that rests calmly over everything. The warmth that filled the afternoon begins to ease, not suddenly, but in a gradual and comforting way, and the air carries a faint coolness once more, moving lightly across the land and through the narrow paths that wind between the houses. In the fields, the man walks back toward the village, his tool resting easily in his hand, his steps steady and unhurried, and as he moves, he notices how the shadows now stretch long across the ground,
reaching out in thin, quiet lines that shift slowly with each passing moment. Around him, other farmers make their way along similar paths, each one returning at their own pace, yet all part of the same shared rhythm that brings the day's work to a gentle close. There is no need to speak, no need to hurry. The work has been done, and the evening has arrived in its own time. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen prepare to leave as well, gathering their nets with slow and practiced movements, shaking free the last drops of water that fall softly back into the river, creating small ripples that quickly fade into the steady flow. The surface of the river reflects the changing sky, now touched with shades of gold and soft orange, and as the light moves across it, the water seems to glow quietly, holding the last warmth of the day. A small boat drifts closer to the shore, guided gently by the man within it, his long pole pressing lightly against the riverbed, bringing him home without effort, without noise, as though the river itself is guiding him along. Back in the village, the first signs of evening begin to appear. Thin lines of smoke rise once more from the rooftops as fires are prepared for the evening meal, the scent of burning wood and straw returning to the air, familiar and comforting, marking the transition from work to rest. The woman kneels again near the hearth, her hands moving with the same calm care as before, preparing food in a steady and unhurried way, while the child sits nearby, watching quietly, his earlier movements now softened by the long day. The man arrives at the house and pauses for a moment before entering, standing just outside as he looks out toward the fading light, taking in the stillness of the moment, the quiet sounds of the village, the distant shimmer of the Nile River as it continues its endless flow. Then, gently, he steps inside. The space feels calm and familiar, holding the quiet presence of those within it, and he sits down once more on the low stool, his body relaxed, his breathing slow and even after the day's steady work. Outside, the village moves in soft patterns. People return to their homes, their steps quiet against the ground, their voices low and calm as they speak briefly to one another, sharing simple words that carry no urgency, only connection. Children gather close to their families, their energy fading with the light, their movements slower now, their voices softer, as though they too are following the rhythm of the setting sun. The evening meal is prepared slowly, bread is warmed again, and simple foods are arranged with care, each step taken without haste, each movement part of a process that has been repeated many times before and will be repeated many times again. When the food is ready, they sit together. The light inside the house is dim now, shaped by the soft glow of the fire, which flickers gently and casts moving shadows along the walls, creating a quiet and peaceful space. They eat in silence, or with only a few quiet words, their attention resting not on conversation, but on the simple act of sharing food, of being present together at the end of the day. Outside, the sky continues to change. The bright colors of sunset begin to fade, giving way to deeper shades of blue, and the first faint signs of night begin to appear, though the land still holds a soft glow from the light that has not yet fully disappeared. Along the river, the last movements of the day take place. A fisherman steps away from the water's edge, his net folded carefully over his shoulder, while the surface of the Nile River grows darker, reflecting the deepening sky above. The sounds of the village grow quieter. The steady work of the day has come to an end, and in its place there is a gentle stillness, not empty, but full in its own quiet way, filled with the presence of people resting, of fires burning softly,
of the land settling into the calm of evening. Inside the house, the meal comes to an end. The woman gathers what remains, her hands moving slowly, while the child leans gently against the wall, his eyes growing heavy, his body ready for rest. The man sits quietly for a while longer, listening to the soft sounds around him, the faint crackle of the fire, the distant murmur of voices, the quiet movement of the night beginning to take shape. There is no rush to sleep, just as there was no rush to begin the day. Everything moves in its own time. Outside, the air cools further, and a light breeze passes gently through the village, carrying with it the scent of earth and water, the familiar presence of the Nile River always nearby. The sky darkens slowly. One by one, the last traces of daylight fade, leaving behind a calm and quiet night, where the stars will soon appear, just as they always have, steady and unchanging above the land. And as the evening settles fully into night, the people of the village move gently toward rest, their day complete, their work finished, their lives continuing in the same peaceful rhythm that will begin again with the next soft light of morning.
As the last light of evening fades completely and the sky deepens into a wide and endless darkness, the land grows still in a way that feels gentle and complete, as though the entire world has slowly settled into rest, guided by the same quiet rhythm that carried it through the day. Above the village, the stars begin to appear, one by one, small points of soft light scattered across the vast sky, steady and unmoving, their presence calm and distant, yet deeply familiar to those who have looked upon them night after night without change. The air has cooled now, losing the warmth it held during the day, and a soft breeze moves slowly through the narrow paths, passing between the mud-brick houses, across the open fields and along the quiet banks of the Nile River, whose dark surface reflects the faint shimmer of starlight. The village grows quieter with each passing moment. The low voices that once drifted through the evening have faded, replaced by a deep and comforting silence, broken only by the soft sounds of the night, the distant call of an animal, the gentle movement of leaves, the quiet flow of water that never stops. Inside the houses, the soft glow of small fires begins to dim. The flames that warmed the evening meal are allowed to settle, their light fading into gentle embers that cast a faint and steady glow against the walls, creating shadows that move slowly and then come to rest. The man lies down on a simple woven mat, his body easing into stillness after the long and steady work of the day, his breathing slow and even, his mind quiet, not filled with thoughts of tomorrow, but resting fully in the calm of the present moment. Nearby, the woman lies down as well, her hands now still after hours of quiet work, her body settling into rest without effort, as though sleep comes naturally, like the fading of the light or the cooling of the air. The child, already drifting into sleep, curls gently against the soft surface beneath him, his breathing deep and steady, his small movements slowing until they stop completely, leaving only the peaceful rhythm of rest. There are no lamps burning brightly, no sharp lights, only the faint glow of embers and the soft light of the stars beyond the walls, filtering gently through small openings, enough to give a sense of space, but not enough to disturb the quiet darkness. Outside, the village rests. No footsteps move along the paths, no tools are lifted, no work is done. The stillness is complete, yet it does not feel empty. It feels full in a quiet way, filled with the presence of life that has simply paused, waiting gently for the next day to come.
Along the edge of the Nile River, the water continues its endless journey, its surface dark and smooth, moving with the same slow rhythm it has always held, unchanged by the passing of day or night. From time to time, a soft ripple forms and fades, barely visible in the dim light, while the faint sounds of water touching the shore create a gentle and constant murmur, like a quiet lullaby carried across the land. In the distance, the open fields lie silent. The soil that was turned during the day now rests, holding the warmth that gathered under the sun, slowly releasing it into the cooling air, while the shapes of the land become soft and undefined in the darkness. Animals settle into their own quiet rest, their movements minimal, their presence calm, adding to the deep sense of stillness that surrounds everything. The night stretches on without interruption. There are no sudden changes, no sharp moments, only a continuous flow of time that feels soft and unbroken, like the slow movement of the river itself. Inside the house, the breathing of those who sleep becomes the only sound, steady and even, rising and falling in a quiet rhythm that mirrors the calm of the world outside. Dreams may come, though they are gentle and untroubled, shaped perhaps by the simple moments of the day, the feeling of warm sunlight, the sight of the river, the soft repetition of familiar work. There is no fear in this darkness, only peace, the kind of peace that comes from a life lived in steady rhythm, where each day follows a path that is known, where nothing is rushed, and where rest is as natural as work. The stars continue their slow movement across the sky, though it is too gradual to notice, their presence constant, their light steady, watching silently over the sleeping land. Time passes, not quickly, not slowly, simply as it always does, and as the night deepens further, there is a quiet sense, almost impossible to notice, that the world is already beginning its gentle return toward morning, though the darkness still holds strong, wrapping the land in its calm and steady embrace. The Nile River flows on, unchanged, its presence constant through every hour, every moment, connecting the end of one day to the beginning of the next without pause. And within this deep and quiet night, the people of the village sleep peacefully, their bodies at rest, their minds still, held within the same gentle rhythm that will guide them once again when the first soft light of dawn returns.
In the quiet depth of night, where everything has rested for many long hours, and the air has grown cool and still, there comes a moment so gentle that it is almost impossible to notice, when the darkness begins, in the smallest way, to soften. It does not happen all at once. There is no clear line between night and morning. Instead, the sky begins to change slowly, holding a faint hint of gray at its farthest edge, while the stars, still present, seem to lose a small part of their brightness, as though they are quietly preparing to fade. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water continues its steady movement, unchanged by the passing hours, yet now reflecting the earliest sign of returning light, a soft and distant glow that stretches gently across its surface. The air feels different again, still cool, but no longer as deep and heavy as the night. There is a quiet freshness to it, a sense that something is beginning, though nothing has yet fully arrived. Inside the house, the man lies still, his breathing slow and even, his body at rest. Yet somewhere within that stillness, there is a quiet shift, a natural awareness that comes not from sound or light alone, but from a rhythm that has been followed for many days. He does not wake suddenly. There is no abrupt movement, only a gradual return as his eyes open slightly, and he becomes aware once more of the space around him, the faint light that has begun to enter,
the calm presence of the early morning. Nearby, the woman remained still for a few moments longer, her breathing steady, her rest complete but unhurried in its ending, while the child continues to sleep, wrapped gently in the quiet comfort of the final moments of night. Outside, the first small sounds begin to return. A bird calls softly from a distant place. Another answers, its voice light and brief. The breeze moves again, barely noticeable, passing gently through the village and across the fields, carrying with it the scent of earth and water. The man sits up slowly, just as he did the day before, and as he does, there is no sense that anything is different, and yet everything feels new again, because the day itself has begun again. He steps outside. The sky now holds a pale and quiet glow, not yet bright, but enough to reveal the shapes of the land, the outlines of the houses, the gentle curve of the path that leads toward the Nile River. The stars fade slowly, one by one, leaving behind a wide and open sky that grows lighter with each passing moment. The village remains mostly still, though signs of waking begin to appear. A door opens quietly. A figure steps outside. Another follows. There is no rush, only the same steady beginning that comes each morning. The man walks once more along the familiar path, his steps calm and even, his body moving with the same quiet rhythm it has always known. And as he walks, he notices the small details again, the texture of the ground, the soft movement of plants, the way the light slowly grows stronger. When he reaches the riverbank, he pauses, just as he always does. The Nile River stretches before him, wide and calm, its surface now reflecting the pale light of dawn, its movement steady and unchanged, as though it has been waiting quietly through the night for this moment to return. He kneels and places his hands into the water. It is cool again, just as it was the morning before. He lifts it gently, letting it fall across his face, the sensation soft and refreshing, marking the beginning of another day without any need for words. Nearby, others arrive, just as they did before. The young boy, still waking, his steps slow and quiet. The older woman, carrying her vessel with steady hands. The fisherman, his net resting lightly over his shoulder. They stand close, yet speak little. The morning does not ask for speech. It holds its own quiet presence. The sun begins to rise. Its light appears slowly at the edge of the horizon, spreading gently across the sky, touching the surface of the Nile River and turning it once again into a soft and moving gold. Back in the village, the first fires are prepared, thin lines of smoke rising into the cool air, carrying the familiar scent of straw and wood, marking the return of daily life. Inside the house, the woman begins her work again, kneeling beside the grinding stone, her hands moving in the same steady rhythm, back and forth, the sound soft and calming, unchanged from the day before. The child wakes slowly, stepping outside and feeling the ground beneath his feet, the air cool and fresh, the world quietly alive around him. In the fields, the farmers begin to gather once more, walking toward the land that waits patiently, ready to receive their care again, the soil still rich, still dark, still part of the same endless cycle. Everything returns, not in repetition that feels empty, but in a rhythm that feels complete. Each day is the same, and yet each day is new. The light, the air, the sounds, the small movements of life all come together in the same gentle pattern that has shaped this place for generations. And so, as the sun rises fully into the sky and the soft glow of morning becomes the steady light of day, the people of this village begin again, moving calmly into their tasks,
their lives unfolding in the same quiet way, guided by the land, the river, and the slow and endless rhythm of time.
As the morning settles once again into its steady and familiar rhythm, and the light of the rising sun spreads gently across the village and the open fields, the day begins to fill with the quiet details that shape the lives of those who live beside the Nile River, not through grand events, but through small, careful actions repeated with patience and calm attention. Inside the house, the soft grinding of grain continues, the woman's hands moving in the same smooth motion, back and forth, with a rhythm so steady that it feels almost like a part of the air itself. And as the grain slowly turns into fine flour, the scent rises faintly, warm and simple, blending with the quiet atmosphere of the morning. The child, now fully awake, sits nearby for a time, watching closely, his eyes following the movement of her hands, learning not through words, but through quiet observation, through the steady presence of these repeated actions that form the foundation of daily life. After a while, he begins to help. His movements are slower, less certain, but careful, and the woman allows him to take part without interruption, guiding him only when needed, her patience as steady as her work. Outside, the village continues to come alive in soft and gradual ways. A man repairs a simple tool near the wall of his home, his fingers moving slowly as he adjusts a worn piece of wood, smoothing it, testing it, ensuring that it will serve its purpose once again without difficulty. Nearby, another person carries water from the Nile River, the clay jar balanced carefully, each step measured and steady, the path beneath their feet familiar and well known. The sound of footsteps is soft against the earth. Nothing echoes loudly here. Everything blends gently into the calm of the morning. In a shaded space between two houses, a woman prepares fibers for weaving, her hands separating and arranging them with quiet focus, each movement small but important, part of a process that takes time and care and cannot be rushed. The potter, seated once more at his wheel, begins shaping another piece, his hands steady and practiced, guiding the clay upward with gentle pressure, the form rising slowly, responding to each small movement. The wheel turns at a calm and even pace. There is no need to spin it quickly. The shape emerges in its own time. In the fields, the man continues his work, the soil turning beneath his tool in smooth lines, each movement placed carefully, not wasting effort, not forcing the land, but working with it, understanding its texture, its weight, its quiet response. The sun climbs higher, and with it the warmth begins to grow again, though still gentle, still kind, spreading slowly across the land, touching the surface of the Nile River, where the water reflects the brightening sky. Birds move through the air, their wings steady, their calls brief and soft, adding to the quiet sounds that fill the space without disturbing its calm. Along the riverbank, fishermen stand once more, their nets ready, their movements slow and familiar, casting and waiting, each action part of a rhythm that feels endless and unbroken. A small group of children walks near the edge of the village, their steps light, their attention moving from one small detail to another, a stone on the ground, a line drawn in the dust, the gentle movement of water in the distance. They do not rush, they do not shout. Their play is quiet, woven into the same calm rhythm that shapes everything around them. Back inside the house, the bread is prepared again, the flour shaped into simple forms and placed near the heat, where it slowly begins to cook, its surface changing as it warms, releasing a soft and comforting scent. The man returns briefly from the fields, stepping inside to take a small amount of food and water, his movements calm,
his presence steady, before stepping outside again to continue his work. There is no clear separation between tasks. Everything flows. One action becomes another without pause, without interruption, forming a continuous pattern that carries the day forward. The woman finishes grinding the grain and begins another task, moving with quiet purpose, her hands never still for long, yet never rushed, always following the same calm pace. The child, now more confident, takes on a small responsibility, carrying a light object from one place to another, his steps careful, his focus strong, learning through doing, through being part of the steady movement of daily life. The air grows warmer, and the light becomes brighter, yet the feeling remains the same, calm, steady, unchanging in its quiet presence. The Nile River flows on, its surface smooth and bright, its movement slow and continuous, a constant presence that shapes every part of life here. In the distance, a boat moves gently across the water, its progress steady and unhurried, the figure guiding it standing calmly, using slow and deliberate movements to direct its path. Nothing in this world moves quickly. Nothing needs to. Time stretches softly, allowing each moment to exist fully, to be felt without pressure, without urgency. The sounds of the village continue, soft and steady. The turning of the potter's wheel, the brushing of fibers, the quiet steps of those walking between tasks, the faint crackle of fire. Each sound small, yet together forming a gentle pattern that fills the air. As the morning continues, the light begins once again to approach its highest point, and with it comes the familiar sense that the day will soon pause, that the steady work will soften, that rest will return as naturally as it always does. And so, within these small and careful details, repeated day after day, the lives of the people unfold, not in large or dramatic moments, but in the quiet and steady actions that shape their world, guided always by the land, the rhythm of the sun, and the endless flow of the Nile River.
As the morning continues to deepen and the sun slowly climbs toward its highest place once again, the quiet life of the village becomes more defined through the simple tools held in careful hands, through the steady movements that shape the land, the home, and the objects used each day, all of it unfolding gently beside the ever-present flow of the Nile River. In the fields, the man adjusts his grip on the wooden handle of his tool, feeling the smoothness worn into it over many seasons of use, where the surface has been shaped not by design, but by touch, by repetition, by the quiet passing of time. The tool fits naturally in his hands. There is no need to think about how to hold it. His body remembers. Each movement flows into the next, the soil opening beneath the edge with a soft sound, the earth shifting gently as it is turned, releasing a faint scent that rises into the warming air. He pauses briefly, not out of fatigue, but to brush away a small clump of soil, his fingers moving with care, noticing its texture, its weight, its quiet readiness for what will come next. Nearby, another farmer uses a different tool, its shape slightly varied, its purpose suited to another task, yet the rhythm remains the same, slow, steady, unbroken, as though all work here is guided by the same unseen current. The oxen move once more along the edges of the field, their strength quiet and controlled, their steps pressing into the earth with a steady weight, while the farmer beside them walks calmly, guiding without force, his voice low and gentle when he speaks. There is no sharp command, only a soft direction. Back in the village, the potter's hands remain steady as he shapes the clay, his fingers pressing lightly, then easing away,
allowing the form to rise and settle in its own time, the spinning wheel beneath it turning at a pace that feels almost as slow as the turning of the day itself. The clay is cool to the touch, soft yet firm enough to hold shape. It responds to each movement without resistance, becoming something useful, something that will hold water, grain, or oil, something that will quietly serve its purpose in the daily rhythm of life. The potter does not rush to finish. He pauses often, not to stop working, but to feel the surface, to check its balance, to ensure that it stands as it should, each small adjustment made with patience. Nearby, another tool is used in a different way. A simple blade, worn smooth along its edge, is drawn carefully across a piece of plant fiber, separating it into finer strands, the motion slow and controlled, the sound soft and almost hidden beneath the other quiet noises of the village. The woman working with the fibers moves her hands steadily, arranging, aligning, preparing them for weaving, her attention focused, her breathing calm, her posture relaxed. Nothing in her movement is wasted, nothing is hurried. Each action has its place. Inside the house, the grinding stone continues its soft rhythm, though now in shorter moments as the work shifts between tasks, the sound returning briefly, then fading again, like a quiet echo of the morning. The child, now more involved in the small work of the day, carries another object carefully, this time with greater confidence, his steps steady, his eyes focused on where he is going, learning through repetition, through small successes, through the gentle guidance of those around him. Outside, the warmth of the day becomes more noticeable, though it does not press heavily yet, instead settling slowly across the land, touching the walls of the houses, the surface of the fields, the quiet path that leads once more toward the Nile River. Along the riverbank, a fisherman checks the fine threads of his net, running his fingers along them carefully, feeling for any weakness, any place where the threads have worn thin, and when he finds one, he sits quietly and begins to repair it. His hands move with precision, tying small knots, restoring the strength of the net, ensuring that it will continue to serve its purpose without failure. This work is slow. It requires patience, but there is no frustration in it, only attention. The water moves beside him, its sound soft and continuous, as though it is part of the same rhythm as his hands, guiding the pace without effort. A small breeze passes across the surface of the Nile River, creating faint ripples that spread outward and then disappear, leaving the water smooth once more. In the distance, a boat moves slowly, its wooden surface catching the light, its motion steady and unforced, as the man within it guides it gently with a long pole, feeling the resistance of the water, adjusting without thought. Every tool here carries a sense of time. Nothing is new in a sudden way. Everything has been shaped, used, repaired, and used again, each mark on its surface a quiet record of the days that have passed. In the fields, the man sets his tool down for a moment and reaches for a small container of water, lifting it slowly and drinking without haste, allowing the coolness to settle, restoring his strength in a simple and natural way. He replaces it carefully. Nothing is dropped, nothing is rushed. The land around him remains quiet, filled with the soft sounds of work, the distant calls of birds, the faint movement of wind through plants that grow near the edges of the fields. Time continues to pass without being measured. The sun moves higher, the light grows stronger, the shadows shorten once again, and within this steady unfolding, the tools return to motion, hands continue their quiet work, and life moves forward in the same calm and unbroken rhythm, shaped by care, by patience, and by the endless presence of the Nile River, flowing beside them as it always has and always will.
As the morning slowly reaches its fullest expression and the sun rises to its highest place in the sky once again, the light becomes steady and wide, spreading evenly across the land, touching every surface with a quiet brightness that feels constant and unchanging, while beside it all the waters of the Nile River continue their slow and endless movement. The warmth settles more deeply now. It is no longer something that is just arriving, but something that surrounds everything, resting gently on the fields, the walls of the houses, the paths between them, and the people who move through their day with calm awareness. In the fields, the man feels this change without needing to think about it, his body responding naturally as his movements become slightly slower, slightly softer, not from effort, but from understanding the rhythm that comes with the height of the day. He continues his work, guiding his tool through the soil, though now with longer pauses between each motion, allowing himself small moments of stillness where he stands upright and looks across the land, letting the warmth settle around him. Nearby, the other farmers do the same. Their movements remain steady, but the pace has shifted, becoming more spaced, more relaxed, as though the land itself is asking for a slower touch. The oxen walk with the same calm strength as before, yet their steps too seem softer, more measured, their bodies moving in harmony with the quiet stillness that begins to fill the air. In the village, the sounds of work begin to thin. The potter's wheel still turns, but less often, each rotation slower, each adjustment of the clay more deliberate, as though the work itself is easing into the calm of midday. The woman weaving linen pauses more frequently, her hands resting briefly in her lap before returning to the threads, her movements gentle, her focus unbroken, yet softened by the warmth that surrounds her. Inside the house, the air remains cooler, the thick walls holding back much of the heat, creating a space where the body can rest more easily. And from time to time, someone steps inside, not to stop the day, but to move with it, to follow its quiet changes. The child, who has spent the morning in small tasks and quiet observation, now moves more slowly, his steps less frequent, his attention drifting, his body responding naturally to the warmth that fills the day. He sits in the shade for a while, tracing small shapes in the dust with his finger, the lines forming and fading as the light shifts gently above him. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen begin to pause again, just as they did the day before, their nets resting beside them, their bodies settling into stillness as they sit or lie in the shade. They watch the water. They listen to its quiet movement. There is no urgency in their waiting, no need to fill the time, because time here is not something to be filled, but something that simply exists, moving softly forward without demand. The surface of the river reflects the bright sky, its light almost blending with the air above it, creating a calm and endless horizon where water and sky seem to meet without boundary. A faint breeze moves across the surface, forming small ripples that appear and disappear, leaving no trace behind, only a moment of gentle motion that fades as quietly as it came. Back in the village, the preparation for the midday meal begins once more. The woman gathers what is needed, her movements slow and steady, her hands familiar with each step as she shapes the grain into bread again, placing it carefully near the heat, allowing it to cook slowly. The scent begins to rise once more, soft and warm, drifting through the air and marking the quiet approach of the day's pause. The man in the fields feels this moment approaching as well,
not through any signal that can be seen or heard, but through the simple awareness that has come from many days lived in the same rhythm. He finishes a final movement, smoothing the soil before him, then sets his tool down gently, his hands resting for a moment at his sides as he stands still and looks across the land. There is no sense of stopping, only a gentle shift. Nearby, others begin to do the same, each one reaching this moment in their own time, yet all guided by the same quiet understanding that the day is ready to soften. The oxen are led to rest once again, their bodies lowering slowly, their breathing calm and steady as they settle into the shade. The village grows quieter. The steady sounds of work fade into softer tones, then into brief moments of silence, until the air itself feels still, holding the warmth and the light in a calm and steady way. Inside the house, the food is nearly ready. The child watches quietly, his eyes following the small movements of preparation, the turning of bread, the placing of simple items, each step familiar, each moment unhurried. When the man returns, his steps are slow, his body relaxed, and as he enters the house, he pauses briefly, allowing the cooler air to settle around him, the quiet of the space welcoming him without change. They sit together once more. The meal is shared in silence, or with only a few quiet words, the act of eating slow and steady, each bite taken with care, each moment allowed to pass gently. Outside, the land rests. The paths are empty. The fields are still. The Nile River continues its soft and endless flow, unchanged by the pause of human activity, its movement steady and calm beneath the height of the sun. The air feels full, yet peaceful. The light remains strong, yet gentle. And within this quiet moment, where the day reaches its highest point and begins to soften once again, everything slows, everything rests, and the steady rhythm of life continues, unbroken, guiding the people gently toward the calm of midday once more.
As the sun remains high in the sky and the brightness of the day settles into a steady, unmoving light, the world seems to pause more fully now. Not in a way that stops time, but in a way that softens it, stretching each moment into something quiet and unhurried, while the calm waters of the Nile River continue to flow without interruption. The warmth rests gently over everything. It no longer grows or changes, but simply exists, surrounding the land, the village, and the people within it, creating a stillness that feels deep and complete. Inside the house, the man leans back slightly after the meal, his body relaxed, his hands resting loosely, and his eyes slowly closing, not in sudden sleep, but in a calm, drifting state, where rest comes naturally, without effort. Nearby, the woman sits quietly, her work set aside for a time, her posture soft, her breathing slow and even, allowing herself this pause that arrives each day, just as steady as the morning and the evening. The child lies close by, his body already surrendered to rest, his small breaths deep and rhythmic, his movements quiet as he settles into sleep, carried gently by the warmth and the silence. Outside, the village has grown almost completely still. The paths between the houses are empty. No footsteps pass, no tools move. The soft sounds of work that once filled the air have faded into a deep and peaceful quiet. Even the animals rest, their bodies still, their presence calm, adding to the sense that everything has settled into a shared moment of stillness. Along the edge of the Nile River, the fishermen remain in the shade, their nets resting beside them, their eyes either closed or half open as they watch the water move slowly past. Some lie back fully, allowing sleep to come for a short while, their bodies relaxed, their breathing steady,
while others remain awake, though quiet, their thoughts drifting gently, carried by the calm presence of the river. The surface of the water reflects the brightness of the sky, though now the light feels softer, not because it has dimmed, but because the stillness of the moment has softened its presence. A faint breeze moves occasionally across the river, creating small ripples that spread outward and disappear, leaving the surface smooth once more. In the distance, the fields lie untouched for this brief time. The soil, turned carefully earlier in the day, now rests beneath the sun, holding the warmth, releasing it slowly into the air, while the lines made by the farmer's work remain quiet and undisturbed. There is no movement here, only presence. The kind of presence that does not need to change, does not need to move, does not need to become anything else. Time continues, though it feels almost as though it has slowed. The sun holds its place in the sky, the shadows remain short and close to the ground, and the air carries a steady warmth that encourages stillness, encouraging the body to rest, encouraging the mind to quiet. Inside the house, the faint glow of the fire has softened into gentle embers, their light barely visible, their warmth subtle, adding to the calm atmosphere without drawing attention. The man's breathing is slow and even now, his body fully at rest, his thoughts quiet, as though they have settled into the same stillness that surrounds him. The woman closes her eyes as well, her hands resting gently, her work forgotten for this short time, her body allowing itself the simple act of being still. The child remains asleep, undisturbed, his small form rising and falling with each breath, his rest deep and peaceful. Outside, the silence continues. It is not empty, it is full in a quiet way, filled with the soft presence of life that has simply paused, waiting gently for the moment when it will begin to move again. The Nile River flows on, unchanged, its steady motion connecting every part of the day, from the early light of morning to the deep stillness of midday, and onward to the quiet of evening and night. A bird calls once, briefly, then falls silent again. The breeze passes lightly, then fades. Nothing disturbs the calm. Nothing interrupts the quiet. And in this deep stillness, where the warmth of the sun rests gently over the land, and all movement has softened into rest, the world feels balanced, complete, held within a rhythm that asks for nothing more than presence. Slowly, almost without being noticed, the moment begins to shift, not in a clear or sudden way, but in the smallest changes, the light softening slightly, the air easing just a little, the sense that the pause, though still present, is beginning to loosen its hold. Inside the house, the man's breathing changes first, becoming slightly lighter, his body preparing to wake, though his eyes remain closed. The woman shifts gently, her posture adjusting, her awareness returning slowly. Outside, one or two figures begin to move again, small and quiet movements, barely breaking the stillness, as though the world itself is carefully stepping out of rest. The pause does not end, it fades, and as it fades, the day begins once more to unfold, carried forward by the same calm and steady rhythm that has guided every moment before it and will continue to guide every moment that follows, beside the endless, quiet flow of the Nile River.
As the deep stillness of midday begins to loosen its quiet hold, the world does not wake all at once, but instead returns to motion in the softest possible way, as though each movement is carefully placed, each sound allowed to emerge slowly, while the calm waters of the Nile River continue their steady and unbroken flow. The light changes first. It remains bright, yet something within it softens, a subtle shift that is felt more than seen as the sun begins its slow and quiet journey downward from its highest place. The warmth eases just enough to allow movement again. Not quickly, not fully, but gently. Inside the house, the man opens his eyes, not with sudden awareness, but with a slow return, as though he is rising from a calm and silent place, his breathing steady, his body rested and at ease. He sits up gradually, taking a moment to simply exist within the quiet, to feel the space around him, to notice the softened light, the faint sounds returning outside. Nearby, the woman lifts her head slightly, her hands still resting where they were, her posture adjusting as she becomes aware of the day once more, her movements calm and unhurried. The child stirs as well, turning slightly, his sleep beginning to fade, though he remains still for a while longer, resting in the final gentle moments of the midday pause. Outside, the village begins to shift. A figure steps into the light, moving slowly, as though testing the return of motion. Another follows. A quiet sound appears, then fades, then appears again, the soft rhythm of life beginning to rebuild itself piece by piece. Along the edge of the Nile River, the fishermen begin to move once more, sitting up, stretching gently, gathering their nets with slow and practiced hands. There is no urgency in their return to work, only a quiet continuation. The nets are lifted, checked, adjusted, and prepared again, each movement careful, each action part of a rhythm that does not break, only pauses and resumes. The water beside them remains calm, its surface reflecting the softened light of the afternoon, its motion steady and unchanged, a constant presence through every shift of the day. Back in the fields, the man walks once more along the familiar path, his steps steady, his body now rested, moving again with the quiet strength that has been renewed through stillness. The soil waits, just as it did before. The tool is lifted again, just as it was before, and the work begins again, not as something new, but as a continuation of what has always been. Nearby, other farmers return as well, each one stepping back into their place, their movements aligning once more into the same slow and steady rhythm that shapes the land. The oxen rise from their rest, their bodies moving calmly, their steps returning to the same gentle pace, guided softly by the hands beside them. In the village, the potter returns to his wheel, placing his hands upon the clay once more, feeling its surface, its balance, its quiet readiness to continue taking shape. The wheel begins to turn again, slowly, evenly. The form grows, not quickly, but steadily. The woman resumes her weaving, her fingers finding the threads again with ease, the pattern continuing without interruption, as though the pause had never broken it, only allowed it to rest. Children step back into their small movements, walking, carrying, watching, their energy returning softly, their voices low, their presence woven gently into the life around them. The air carries a new feeling now, still warm but lighter, still quiet but gently alive again. The breeze moves more freely, passing through the village, across the fields, along the banks of the Nile River, carrying with it the scent of earth, water, and the faint traces of fire that have cooled into ash. A boat moves slowly across the river, its path smooth, its motion steady, guided by calm hands that understand the water without needing to think about it. The reflection of the sky shimmers gently across its surface, the light shifting as the boat passes, then settling once more into stillness. Back in the house, the woman gathers her tools again, her hands moving with quiet purpose, her attention steady as she continues the tasks that shape the home, each action simple yet essential. The child now joins her, carrying small items, placing them carefully, his movements more confident than before,
shaped by the quiet repetition of the day. The man in the field pauses once more, not from weariness, but from awareness, standing still for a moment as he looks across the land, feeling the softened light, the gentle return of motion, the quiet presence of everything around him. Then he continues. The afternoon stretches ahead, not long or short, but steady, unfolding in the same calm and unbroken way as the morning, guided by the same rhythm, shaped by the same quiet understanding. Nothing is forced, nothing is rushed. Each moment flows into the next. Each action becomes part of a larger whole. And through it all, the Nile River remains constant, its slow movement a silent thread that connects every part of the day, from the stillness of midday to the gentle return of work, and onward toward the soft and quiet coming of evening once again.
As the afternoon continues to unfold and the sun moves slowly downward across the wide and open sky, the light begins to stretch and soften, touching the land in a gentler way than before, while the steady waters of the Nile River carry the reflection of that changing light in quiet, flowing patterns. The warmth of the day remains, though it is no longer as still or heavy as it was at midday, and the air feels easier to move through, allowing the rhythm of work to continue with a calm and steady ease. In the fields, the man works with the same careful motion, though now his movements seem to follow the lengthening shadows, each step placed thoughtfully, each motion flowing into the next without interruption, as the soil continues to turn beneath his hands. The lines in the earth grow longer, the patterns more complete, and with each quiet movement, the sense of the day slowly moving toward its end becomes gently present, not as something to rush toward, but as something that will arrive in its own time. Nearby, other farmers continue as well, their figures moving slowly across the land, their actions steady and unbroken, their attention resting fully on the simple work before them. The oxen walk calmly along the edges of the fields, their steps even, their breathing slow, their presence quiet and strong, part of the same steady rhythm that holds everything together. Back in the village, the sounds of activity continue, though they remain soft and measured. The potter's wheel turns in a slow and steady motion, the shape of the clay becoming more defined with each careful touch, its surface smooth beneath patient hands. The woman weaving continues her work, the threads moving through her fingers in a pattern that grows gradually, each line adding to the whole, each movement small but meaningful. There is no sense of finishing, only of continuing. Children move gently through the spaces between the houses, their energy balanced now, neither restless nor still, their steps light, their voices quiet, their presence part of the calm life of the village. Some sit together in the shade, tracing lines in the dust or arranging small objects, their attention focused on simple things, their movements slow and unhurried. Others carry small tasks, helping in ways that feel natural, their actions guided by quiet observation rather than instruction. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen continue their patient work, casting their nets into the water and waiting, their bodies relaxed, their attention soft, allowing time to pass without pressure. The river reflects the sky, which has begun to change in subtle ways, the bright blue softening, the light growing warmer, more golden, though still gentle, still calm. A breeze moves more freely now, passing across the water and through the village, carrying with it a sense of movement that was absent during the stillness of midday, though it remains soft, never disturbing the quiet atmosphere. A small boat glides across the surface of the river, its motion smooth, its path steady, the man guiding it standing calmly, his movements slow and practiced, his presence quiet against the wide and open water. In the fields, the man pauses once more, standing upright as he looks across the land, the light now stretching long across the ground, casting shadows that move slowly with the passing time. He takes a breath, not deep, not forced, just steady. And in that moment, there is a quiet awareness of the day nearing its close, though there is no need to mark it, no need to speak of it. It is simply felt. He returns to his work, continuing the same steady rhythm, allowing the afternoon to unfold as it will. Back in the village, small preparations begin to form, not yet for the evening, but in quiet anticipation of it. The gathering of simple items, the clearing of spaces, the gentle transition from one part of the day to the next. The air carries the scent of earth warmed by the sun, mixed with the faint traces of water from the nearby Nile River, creating a feeling that is both grounding and calm. The light continues to change, the shadows grow longer, the brightness softens further, and everything seems to move just a little more slowly, not from tiredness, but from the natural rhythm that comes as the day begins to settle. The potter slows the turning of his wheel, his hands resting more often, the form before him nearly complete, needing only small adjustments that are made with care. The weaver pauses more frequently, her hands resting in her lap for brief moments before continuing, the pattern nearly reaching a place where it will be set aside until another day. The fishermen lift their nets once more, the water falling from them in soft droplets, each one catching the light briefly before disappearing into the river below. The fields grow quieter as well, the farmers finishing their final movements, smoothing the soil, setting down their tools, standing for a moment to look across the land they have worked. Nothing is left unfinished in a hurried way. Everything reaches a natural pause. And through it all, the Nile River continues to flow, steady and unchanged, reflecting the warm tones of the late afternoon sky, its presence constant, its rhythm unbroken. As the sun lowers further, nearing the edge of the horizon, the day begins to soften fully, preparing to move into the quiet and gentle calm of evening once again. And so the work eases, the movements slow, the sounds soften, and the long afternoon drifts gently toward its end, carried by the same peaceful rhythm that has guided every moment from the first light of dawn.
As the sun moves lower toward the horizon and the wide sky begins to fill with a deeper, warmer glow, the light over the land softens into shades of gold and quiet orange, spreading gently across the fields, the village, and the calm waters of the Nile River, which now reflects the fading day like a slow and moving mirror. The warmth remains, but it is no longer strong. It feels gentle now, comforting, like the final touch of the day before it slowly lets go. In the fields, the man stands for a moment longer, his work nearly complete, his tool resting lightly in his hand as he looks out across the land, where the long shadows stretch far across the soil, forming quiet patterns that shift slowly as the light continues to fade. There is no sense of ending, only a quiet transition. He lowers his tool and begins to walk back along the narrow path, his steps steady and calm, the earth beneath his feet still warm from the sun, though cooling with each passing moment. Around him, other farmers begin to leave the fields as well, each one moving at their own pace, their figures spaced gently across the land, all part of the same silent return. The oxen follow slowly, their movements calm and unforced, their presence steady as they are guided back toward the village, their work for the day complete. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen gather their nets once more, their hands moving with quiet familiarity,
folding, lifting, and arranging them carefully, while the last light of the sun glows softly across the surface of the water. A boat drifts closer to the shore, its movement smooth and unhurried, the man guiding it standing quietly, his long pole touching the riverbed with gentle pressure, bringing him home in the same calm way he has traveled throughout the day. The river itself seems to slow, though its movement never changes, its surface now holding the rich colors of the sky, gold fading into deeper shades, the light shimmering softly before beginning to dim. Back in the village, the first signs of evening return once again. Thin streams of smoke rise into the air as fires are prepared, their scent drifting gently through the cooling breeze, marking the quiet shift from the work of the day to the calm of rest. The woman kneels near the hearth once more, her hands moving with the same steady care, preparing the evening meal, her motions unhurried, her attention calm and focused. The child sits nearby, his energy softened, his movements slower, his eyes watching quietly as the light changes around him, the world growing softer, dimmer, more peaceful. The man reaches the house and pauses outside, standing still for a moment as he looks toward the horizon, where the sun now rests just above the edge of the land, its light spreading wide and low, touching everything with a final glow. The air feels different now, cooler, lighter, carrying with it the scent of earth and water, of the nearby Nile River, which continues its endless flow, unchanged by the passing of the day. He steps inside. The space is dim, lit softly by the small fire, its glow gentle and steady, casting moving shadows along the walls, creating a calm and quiet place where the day can slowly come to rest. Outside, the village moves in soft patterns. People return to their homes, their footsteps quiet, their voices low, if they speak at all, sharing small moments of connection without urgency, without need for many words. Children gather close to their families, their presence calm, their movements slowing further as the evening deepens. The sky continues to change. The bright gold fades into deeper orange, then into soft shades of red and purple, the colors blending slowly, without sharp lines, without sudden change. The light touches the surface of the Nile River one last time, reflecting in gentle waves before dimming, leaving the water darker, quieter, yet still moving as it always has. The fishermen step away from the river. The fields grow still. The tools rest where they have been placed. The sounds of work fade completely. Inside the house, the evening meal is ready. The bread is warm, the simple foods arranged carefully, and the family sits together once more, the firelight flickering softly, creating a quiet space where the day's final moments can be shared. They eat slowly, without hurry, without noise, each bite taken with calm awareness, each moment allowed to pass gently. Outside, the last light of the sun slips below the horizon. The sky darkens gradually, holding a faint glow for a short time before the deeper shades of night begin to take over. A soft breeze moves through the village, carrying away the warmth of the day, replacing it with a cool and gentle air that signals the coming of night. The Nile River flows on in the growing darkness, its surface now reflecting the dimming sky, its movement quiet and steady, connecting the end of this day to the night that follows. And so, as the golden light fades completely, and the calm of evening settles fully across the land, the village prepares once again to rest, held within the same gentle rhythm that has carried it from the first soft light of morning to this quiet and peaceful end.
As the last traces of golden light fade from the sky and the horizon softens into deeper shades of blue and quiet gray, The night returns once more to the land, not suddenly, but in a slow and gentle way, as though it is carefully settling over the village, the fields, and the calm waters of the Nile River. The air cools further now. The warmth of the day has almost completely gone, leaving behind a softness that feels calm and steady, wrapping around everything in a quiet and comforting way. Above, the first stars begin to appear again, small and steady, shining softly in the wide and open sky, their light distant yet familiar, returning just as they always do. In the village, the sounds of evening continue to fade. The quiet voices that lingered after the meal grow softer, then disappear, leaving behind a deep and peaceful stillness that settles into every space, every path, every home. Inside the house, the fire burns low, its flames no longer strong, but gentle and contained, casting a soft and flickering light that moves slowly across the walls, creating shadows that rise and fall in quiet patterns. The man sits for a short time after the meal, his posture relaxed, his hands resting loosely, his gaze calm as he listens to the quiet sounds of the night beginning to take shape. There is no need to speak, no need to move quickly. The day has ended in its own time. The woman finishes her small tasks, her movements slow and careful, placing things where they belong, her attention steady, her presence calm, before she too allows herself to rest. The child leans gently against the wall, his eyes growing heavy, his body already beginning to drift into sleep, his breathing soft and even. Outside, the village becomes still. The narrow paths are empty once more. No footsteps pass, no tools move. Only the faint sounds of the night remain, the distant call of an animal, the soft rustle of leaves, the quiet movement of air. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water continues its endless flow, its surface dark now, reflecting the faint light of the stars above, its movement unchanged by the passing of day or night. A gentle ripple forms and fades. The sound of water touching the shore is soft and steady, like a quiet breath that continues without interruption. The fishermen have left, their nets are folded, their work is done. The river remains, carrying its calm presence through the darkness. In the fields beyond, the land rests. The soil lies still beneath the cooling air, holding the memory of the day's warmth, releasing it slowly as the night deepens. The shapes of the land soften into shadow, the lines of the fields blending into the darkness, becoming part of the quiet whole. Animals settle into their own rest, their movements minimal, their presence calm, adding to the deep stillness that now fills the world. Inside the house, the man lies down once more on the woven mat, his body easing into rest without effort, his breathing slow and steady, his thoughts quiet and without weight. The woman lies beside him, her hands now still, her body relaxed, her mind at ease, allowing sleep to come naturally, just as it always does. The child is already asleep, his small form peaceful, his breathing deep and even, completely held within the calm of the night. The fire fades further, its glow dimming into soft embers that give just enough light to shape the darkness, but not enough to disturb it. There are no bright lights here, no sudden sounds, only the steady presence of night. Above, the stars grow clearer as the sky deepens, spreading across the vast space in quiet patterns that remain unchanged, watching silently over the land below. The air moves gently through the village, passing through open spaces, across the surfaces of the houses, along the quiet path that leads to the Nile River, carrying with it the scent of earth, water, and the cooling remains of the day. Time passes in a soft and unbroken flow. There is no need to measure it, no need to follow it. It moves as it always has, quietly,
steadily, without interruption. Inside the house, the breathing of those who sleep becomes the only sound, a slow and gentle rhythm that rises and falls, matching the calm of the world outside. Dreams come softly, shaped by the simple moments of the day, the warmth of the sun, the steady work of hands, the quiet presence of the river. There is no disturbance, no urgency, only peace. The Nile River continues to flow through the darkness, its movement steady and unchanged, connecting this night to every night before it and to the morning that will come again. And so, as the night settles fully over the land, deep and calm and endless, the village rests once more, held within the same rhythm that carries each day into the next, without effort, without change, without end.
In the deep calm of night, where all movement has softened into stillness and the land rests beneath a wide sky filled with quiet stars, time continues to pass in its gentle and unbroken way, carrying everything slowly forward toward the first return of light, while the steady waters of the Nile River move on without pause. The darkness remains full and soft. It does not press or weigh, it simply surrounds, holding the village, the fields, and the river in a quiet embrace that feels complete and undisturbed. Inside the house, the man sleeps deeply, his breathing slow and even, his body fully at rest, his thoughts quiet and distant, as though they have drifted far beyond the reach of the waking world. Beside him, the woman rests in the same calm stillness, her hands relaxed, her body settled, her presence part of the quiet rhythm that fills the space. The child remains asleep, his small movements now still, his breath steady, his rest undisturbed, held gently within the peaceful silence of the night. The fire has faded into embers. Its glow is faint now, barely visible, casting only the softest light that touches the walls and then disappears into shadow. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps move along the paths, no voices rise, no work is done. Only the quiet sounds of the night remain, faint and distant, blending into the stillness without breaking it. Along the edge of the Nile River, the water continues its slow and steady journey, its surface dark and smooth, reflecting the scattered light of the stars above. From time to time, a small ripple forms, then fades, leaving no trace behind, only a brief moment of motion within the endless calm. The air is cool now, cooler than it has been since the early morning before, carrying a freshness that settles gently over the land, touching the soil, the walls, the quiet forms of those who sleep. In the distance, the open fields lie in shadow, their shapes softened, their lines no longer clear, blending into the quiet darkness that surrounds them. Animals remain still, their bodies at rest, their presence calm and unnoticed, adding to the deep and steady quiet that fills every part of the land. Above, the stars hold their place in the sky, their light steady, their patterns unchanged, though slowly, very slowly, they begin to shift in ways that cannot be seen, only felt through the passing of time. The night continues. There is no rush toward its end, no sudden change, only a gradual movement, so gentle it almost cannot be noticed, as the darkness begins, in the smallest way, to soften. The air changes first. It remains cool, yet carries a faint hint of something new, something that signals the approach of morning, though the sky is still dark, still filled with stars. Along the surface of the Nile River, a subtle difference appears, a faint light at the farthest edge, not yet visible as color, but present as a quiet shift in the reflection.
Inside the house, the man's breathing begins to change slightly, becoming just a little lighter, though he remains asleep, his body still resting, his mind still quiet. The woman shifts gently, her posture adjusting, as though her body is aware, in some quiet way, that the night is beginning to pass. The child remains still, his sleep deep, his presence peaceful, undisturbed by the slow movement of time. Outside, the first faint sound returns. A single bird calls, softly, briefly, then falls silent again. The air moves slightly, a gentle breeze passing through the village, touching the walls, the ground, the quiet spaces between the houses. The stars begin to fade, though so slowly that their disappearance feels like a quiet dissolving rather than an ending. The sky changes, not fully, not yet, but enough to begin the return. The edge of the horizon holds a faint pale gray, a soft light that grows almost without being seen, spreading gently across the distant line where earth and sky meet. The Nile River reflects this change first, its surface catching the faintest hint of light, turning from deep darkness into a softer, quieter shade. The night is still present, but it is no longer complete. The transition has begun. Inside the house, the man stirs slightly, his body preparing to wake, though he remains still for now, resting in the final moments of sleep. The woman's breathing shifts again, her awareness slowly returning, her body moving gently within the calm space. The child remains still, his sleep deep, his presence peaceful, undisturbed by the slow movement of time. Outside, the first true light of dawn begins to rise slowly across the horizon. The land prepares once again to wake, not suddenly, not loudly, but gently, just as it always has.
As the faint gray of early dawn slowly deepens into a gentle, pale gold along the horizon, the world begins once more to reveal itself, not all at once, but in quiet layers, as though each detail is returning carefully, while the calm waters of the Nile River reflect the first true light of a new day. The stars continue to fade. One by one, they soften and disappear into the brightening sky, leaving behind a wide and open space that feels calm and still, yet quietly alive with the promise of another day unfolding. The air is cool and fresh. It carries a softness that belongs only to this moment, before the warmth returns, before the movement of the day begins again. Inside the house, the man opens his eyes slowly, just as he has done many times before, his awareness returning not with urgency, but with a calm and steady ease, as though he is rising with the light itself. He remains still for a moment, listening. The silence is no longer complete. There are small sounds now, distant birds calling softly, a faint movement of air, the quiet presence of life beginning again. He sits up, his movement slow and familiar, his body rested, his mind clear, without the weight of thoughts, without the need to rush forward into the day. Nearby, the woman stirs gently, her breathing shifting as she wakes, her hands resting calmly at her side, her presence soft and steady. The child remains still for a little longer, wrapped in the last gentle moments of sleep, his breathing deep and even, his rest not yet finished. The man steps outside. The sky now holds a soft golden light, spreading slowly upward, touching the edges of the land, revealing the shapes of the houses, the narrow paths, the distant line of the river. The village is beginning to wake. A door opens quietly. Another follows.
Figures step out into the cool morning air, their movements calm and unhurried, each one beginning the day in their own time. The man walks toward the Nile River once more, following the same path, his steps steady, his body moving with a rhythm that feels natural and unchanged. The ground beneath his feet is cool, slightly damp from the night, and as he walks, he notices the small details again, the texture of the earth, the gentle movement of plants, the way the light touches everything softly. When he reaches the riverbank, he pauses. This moment remains the same, each day, each morning. He stands still, looking out across the wide water, which now glows faintly with the reflection of the rising sun, its surface calm, its movement slow and steady. He kneels and places his hands into the water. It is cool, refreshing. The sensation spreads gently across his skin as he lifts it to his face, allowing it to fall slowly, marking the quiet beginning of another day. Nearby, others arrive. The young boy, now more familiar with this moment, walking with steadier steps, his eyes open and aware. The older woman, carrying her vessel with the same calm strength. The fisherman, his net resting across his shoulder, his presence quiet and focused. They gather without words. The morning does not need them. The sun rises further, its light spreading across the surface of the Nile River, turning it into a soft and moving gold, just as it did before, just as it will again. Back in the village, the first fires are prepared once more, thin lines of smoke rising into the cool air, carrying the familiar scent of straw and wood, marking the return of daily life. Inside the house, the woman begins her work again, kneeling beside the grinding stone, her hands moving in the same steady rhythm, back and forth, the sound soft and calming, unchanged by time. The child wakes slowly now, sitting up and stepping outside, feeling the cool ground beneath his feet, the air fresh against his skin, the world quietly alive around him. He watches for a moment, then moves to help. In the fields, the farmers begin to gather again, walking toward the land that waits patiently, ready to receive their care once more. The soil still rich, still dark, still part of the same endless cycle. The man returns from the river and joins them, his tool in hand, his movements calm, his attention steady, as he begins once again the slow and careful work of shaping the earth. The potter sits at his wheel, the weaver gathers her threads, the fishermen prepare their nets. Each action returns, not as repetition that feels empty, but as a rhythm that feels complete. Each day is the same, and yet each day is new. The light is new, the air is new, the small moments are new. And within this quiet beginning, the lives of the people continue, shaped by the same steady flow of time, guided by the land, the rising sun, and the endless presence of the Nile River, which moves beside them as it always has, calm, patient, and unchanging. As the morning light continues to spread gently across the village, and the steady rhythm of work begins once more in the fields and along the banks of the Nile River, there is another rhythm unfolding at the same time, quieter and closer, held within the walls of the home, where the small and careful details of daily life are carried out with calm and steady hands. Inside the house, the air remains cool, protected from the growing warmth outside by the thick mud brick walls that hold the night's softness a little longer, creating a space where each movement feels gentle and contained. The woman continues her work beside the grinding stone, her hands moving with the same familiar rhythm, the grain slowly turning into fine flour, the soft sound repeating again and again, steady and unbroken, like a quiet breath within the room. The child sits nearby, watching closely at first, his eyes following the motion, the way the grain shifts, the way the hands guide it, learning through stillness, through attention, through the quiet presence of these simple acts. After a time, he leans forward and joins in, placing his small hands beside hers, his movements slower, less certain, but careful, guided gently without many words, the learning happening not through instruction, but through doing. The man steps in briefly from outside, his presence calm, his body already warm from the early work in the fields, and he pauses for a moment, allowing his eyes to adjust to the dim light, taking in the quiet scene before him. He drinks a small amount of water, lifting it slowly, feeling its coolness, then sets it down again with care, his movements never hurried, never sharp. Then he returns outside, his steps steady, rejoining the wider rhythm of the day. Within the home, other small tasks begin to unfold. The woman shifts from grinding to preparing the fibers that will later become thread, her fingers separating and aligning them, smoothing them with gentle pressure, each movement slow and precise. The fibers are light, soft. They respond easily to her touch, forming into neat bundles that will later be woven into cloth, something that will be used daily, something that will carry the quiet effort of these small moments. The child watches again, then gathers a few loose strands, holding them carefully, learning how they feel, how they move, how they can be shaped with patience. The light inside the house changes slowly as the sun rises higher outside, small beams entering through narrow openings, touching parts of the floor and wall, creating soft patterns that shift almost without being seen. Dust moves gently within that light, tiny particles floating, rising and falling in silence, adding to the stillness rather than breaking it. From outside, faint sounds drift in, the distant turning of soil, the quiet movement of footsteps, the soft call of a bird, and beyond it all, the constant, gentle presence of the Nile River, its flow steady and unchanging, a quiet sound that blends into everything else. The woman begins preparing the next stage of the meal, her movements calm and practiced, shaping the flour into simple forms, her hands pressing and turning, each action smooth and deliberate. The scent of grain rises again, soft and familiar, filling the small space with a quiet warmth that feels both grounding and comforting. The child moves about the room, carrying small items, placing them where they belong, his steps careful, his attention focused, his understanding growing with each simple task. There is no rush to finish anything, no sense of time pressing forward. Each action exists fully in its moment. Outside, the light continues to grow stronger, the warmth spreading slowly across the land, touching the walls of the house, though inside the coolness remains for a while longer. The woman pauses briefly, sitting back, her hands resting in her lap, her breathing slow and steady, taking a moment of stillness within the flow of her work. The child sits beside her, quiet as well, the two sharing a space that is calm and undisturbed, where nothing needs to be said, where presence is enough. After a short time, the work resumes, not as something separate, but as a continuation. The rhythm returns easily, the hands move again, the small sounds fill the space once more. In another part of the house, simple objects rest where they have been placed,
clay vessels, woven baskets, tools shaped by use and time, each one carrying its own quiet purpose, each one part of the life that unfolds here day after day. Nothing is excessive, nothing is unnecessary. Everything has its place, everything is used with care. The walls hold the memory of many days, their surfaces marked by time, by touch, by the quiet presence of those who have lived within them. The floor beneath feels firm and cool, grounding each step, connecting the people inside to the earth itself. Outside, the day continues to grow stronger, but inside, the rhythm remains soft and steady, shaped by small movements, by careful attention, by the quiet understanding that life is made not from large moments, but from these gentle and repeated acts. And as the morning continues to unfold, the life within the home remains calm and complete, held within the same steady rhythm that guides the fields, the village, and the flowing waters of the Nile River, always present, always moving, always part of the quiet and endless cycle of the day.
As the morning continues to unfold and the light grows steady across the village and the surrounding land, life extends gently beyond the walls of each home, not in loud gatherings or busy movement, but in soft and simple connections between people, where presence is shared quietly, and the rhythm of the day flows between them as naturally as the waters of the Nile River. The narrow paths between the houses begin to hold more movement now, though still calm and unhurried, as individuals step outside, carrying small items, moving from one place to another with steady steps and quiet awareness. A woman walks slowly with a clay vessel balanced carefully in her hands, her posture straight, her gaze soft, her attention focused not only on her path, but on the gentle presence of those she passes. She pauses briefly as another approaches. There is no need for many words, a simple nod, a quiet exchange of acknowledgement. Then each continues on their way, their movements blending back into the steady flow of the morning. Nearby, two men stand for a short time beside a shaded wall, speaking softly, their voices low, their conversation slow, not rushed, not filled with urgency, but shaped by the calm pace of the day. Their words are few, their pauses long, as though silence itself is part of what they share. After a moment, they part, each returning to his work without hurry, without any sense of interruption. Children move gently along the edges of the village, their presence light and quiet, their steps soft against the earth, their attention shifting from one small detail to another. They do not gather in loud groups. Instead, they remain close to the spaces of home and work, observing, helping, learning, their understanding growing through the simple act of being present. One child carries a small bundle of fibers, holding it carefully, walking with slow and steady steps toward a shaded space where it will be used. Another kneels near the ground, drawing lines in the dust with a finger, the shapes forming and fading, existing only for a moment before being gently brushed away. In the open spaces between the houses, small tasks are shared quietly. A basket is passed from one pair of hands to another. A tool is offered and accepted without words. A vessel is filled and returned. Each action simple, each exchange calm. There is no sense of ownership in these moments, only use, only need, only quiet understanding. Along the banks of the Nile River, the same gentle presence of shared life continues as fishermen stand not far from one another, their movements independent, yet connected by the same steady rhythm. They cast their nets in silence, each one focused, yet aware of the others.
their actions aligned not by coordination, but by the natural flow of the day. From time to time, one glances toward another, a brief look that holds quiet recognition, then returns to the task at hand. There is no competition, no urgency, only the shared understanding of work that has always been done this way. In the fields, the farmers move steadily across the land, their figures spaced gently apart, each one working in their own place, yet all part of the same quiet effort that shapes the earth. Occasionally, one pauses and looks toward another, perhaps offering a small gesture, a subtle motion of the hand, a silent acknowledgement that is understood without explanation. Then the work continues. Back within the village, the woman steps outside briefly, carrying a small basket, her movements calm and steady as she walks a short distance to another home. She pauses at the entrance. A quiet exchange takes place. A few items are given. A few are received. There is no counting, no measuring, only balance, only trust. She returns home in the same quiet way, her steps even, her presence calm, the basket now slightly different, yet part of the same steady flow of daily life. The child watches this from a short distance, observing without speaking, understanding growing not from explanation, but from seeing these small moments repeated again and again. The air carries the soft sounds of these interactions, footsteps, the shifting of objects, the faint murmur of voices, all blending together into a gentle and continuous pattern that fills the space without disturbing its calm. Above, the sun continues its steady movement, the light remaining bright yet soft, touching the village and the fields evenly, without harshness, without change. The breeze moves lightly through the paths, carrying with it the scent of earth, of grain, of the nearby Nile River, its presence always near, always steady, always part of the life that unfolds here. There is no separation between one person and another in these moments. Each life moves individually, yet within the same rhythm, within the same quiet understanding, within the same flow of time that connects everything together. Nothing is spoken loudly, nothing is done quickly. Everything is shared in a way that feels natural, effortless, and calm. And as the morning continues to pass and the day slowly moves forward once again, these small and gentle connections remain, shaping the life of the village just as surely as the work in the fields or the steady movement of the Nile River, which flows beside them all, constant and unchanging, carrying with it the quiet rhythm that guides every part of their world.
As the day continues in its calm and steady rhythm, moving gently through the late morning toward another soft turning of time, there exists within the life of the village a quiet awareness that is not always seen in movement or sound, but is felt in the spaces between actions, in the pauses, in the stillness, like the steady and unseen flow of the Nile River beneath its calm surface. This awareness does not arrive in loud moments. It does not ask for attention. It simply exists, woven into the rhythm of daily life, present in the way hands move, in the way eyes pause, in the way breath slows and deepens without effort. In the early part of the day, as the sun continues its slow climb and the light remains gentle and wide, a man pauses briefly near the edge of the fields, not because his work is finished, but because there is a quiet moment within him that asks for stillness. He stands upright, his tool resting lightly against the ground, his gaze soft as he looks out across the land, where the soil stretches in calm lines and the distant shimmer of the Nile River reflects the sky. He does not speak. There are no words needed. His stillness itself holds meaning, a quiet acknowledgement of the land, of the water, of the unseen forces that shape the growth of crops, the rising of the sun, the steady return of each day.
After a short time, he lowers his gaze and returns to his work, the moment passing without interruption, yet remaining within him. In the village, the woman pauses as well, her hands resting gently on the fibers she has been preparing, her head slightly bowed, her eyes calm and unfocused, not fixed on any one thing, but open to the quiet presence that surrounds her. The room is still. The light moves slowly across the wall. The air carries a soft warmth. Nothing changes, yet in that stillness there is a sense of connection, something that does not need to be named, something that is simply known. The child sitting nearby watches her, without fully understanding, yet feeling the quiet shift, sensing that this moment is different, even though nothing has visibly changed. He becomes still as well, his small hands resting in his lap, his breathing slowing, his presence softening in response to hers. Outside, near the riverbank, a fisherman finishes adjusting his net and then pauses, standing at the edge of the Nile River, looking out across the water. The river moves as it always does, slow, steady, endless, its surface reflecting the sky above, its depth holding unseen currents that cannot be touched or fully known. He lowers his head slightly, his posture relaxed, his breath even, and for a moment he does nothing at all. The net rests at his side, the water moves, the air is quiet. This stillness is not separate from his work, it is part of it, part of the same rhythm that guides every action. After a while, he lifts his net again and continues, his movements unchanged, his pace steady, as though the moment of stillness has simply become another part of the flow. In the village, others move through similar moments, though they do not appear at the same time and they do not call attention to themselves. A woman placing a vessel down gently, her hands lingering for a moment longer than needed. A man adjusting a tool, then pausing, his gaze resting briefly on the ground before continuing. A child standing still, watching the light move across the dust. Each moment small, each moment quiet, yet together they form something deeper, something that flows beneath the surface of daily life, just as the unseen currents move beneath the visible surface of the Nile River. There are places within the village where this quiet sense feels stronger. A shaded corner, a small space near a wall, a place where offerings may be left, simple items placed carefully, grain, a small vessel, a gesture of giving that does not seek return, only balance. These places are not loud, they are not grand, they do not draw attention, they exist quietly, like everything else, woven into the life of the village without separation. When someone passes by, they may pause for a moment, not always, not in a fixed way, but when the moment feels right, a small stillness, a quiet breath. Then they continue. The day moves on, the work continues, the tools return to motion, the fields are tended, the fibers are woven, the nets are cast. Nothing changes in a visible way, and yet beneath it all, there remains this quiet awareness, this gentle connection to something larger, something steady and unbroken, something that does not need to be seen to be present. The sun continues its path across the sky, the light shifting slowly, the warmth settling gently across the land. The Nile River flows on, carrying with it the same calm presence, the same quiet movement, the same endless rhythm that has shaped every part of life here. And within this rhythm, the sacred is not separate, it is not distant, it is not spoken loudly, it is simply there, in the stillness between movements, in the breath between actions, in the quiet understanding that flows through everything, just as the river flows through the land, calm, steady, and without end.
As the day continues its slow and steady movement, and the light of the sun begins once again to soften slightly in the wide sky, There is a calm presence not only in the land and the work, but within the people themselves. A quiet inner life that moves gently beneath each action, like the unseen currents that flow beneath the surface of the Nile River. These feelings are not spoken often. They do not rise loudly. They remain soft, steady, and close, carried quietly through the day in the way a person breathes, in the way they pause, in the way they look at the world around them. In the fields, the man continues his work, his hands moving in the same slow rhythm, his body steady and strong. Yet within him there is a calm sense of familiarity, a quiet comfort that comes from knowing this land, from walking these same paths, from feeling the soil respond to his touch. He does not think of this in words, he simply feels it, a steady presence, a quiet belonging. When he pauses and looks across the fields, there is no need for reflection or question, only a gentle awareness of being part of what he sees, of existing within the same rhythm that moves the land, the light, and the water. Nearby, another farmer works in silence, his movements similar, his pace unhurried, and though they do not speak, there is a quiet understanding between them, something shared without words, a sense of connection that exists simply because they move within the same pattern of life. In the village, the woman continues her tasks within the home, her hands moving with care, her attention steady, yet within her there is a softness, a calm that does not come from rest alone, but from the repetition of these actions, from the quiet knowledge that each task has meaning, that each movement supports the life around her. She pauses for a moment, her hands resting lightly, her gaze soft as she looks toward the doorway, where the light falls gently across the floor. There is no thought to follow, no need to speak, only a quiet presence that fills the space within her, as natural as the air she breathes. The child moves nearby, his small steps careful, his attention shifting from one simple thing to another, and within him there is a quiet curiosity, a gentle awareness of the world that grows with each passing day. He does not question loudly, he does not seek answers in words, he observes, he feels, he learns through stillness as much as through action. When he sits for a moment, watching the dust move in a beam of light, there is a calm in him, a quiet focus that does not need to be directed, a natural part of being present in this world. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fisherman casts his net once more, his movements steady, his attention soft, and within him there is a sense of patience that has grown over time, shaped by the water, by the waiting, by the understanding that not everything comes when it is first sought. He stands quietly as the net settles into the water. He waits, not with tension, not with expectation, but with calm. The river moves beside him, unchanged, its steady flow a quiet reminder that time passes in its own way, that things come and go without force. He feels this without needing to name it, a quiet acceptance, a gentle trust. Back in the village, small moments of connection continue to pass between people, each one simple, each one soft, yet within them there is a warmth, a quiet sense of togetherness that does not need to be spoken. A glance, a shared task, a brief pause beside another. These are enough. There is no need for more. The day continues, the sun moves slowly, the light shifts, and within all of this, the inner life of each person flows quietly, shaped by the same rhythm, guided by the same calm presence that fills the land. There are no sharp emotions here, no sudden changes. Feelings rise and fall gently like the movement of the Nile River, steady, continuous, never forced. When fatigue comes, it is accepted. When rest arrives, it is welcomed. When small moments of joy appear, they are felt quietly, without need to hold on to them. Everything moves, everything passes, everything returns.
The man in the field feels the weight of his work, yet it does not burden him. It is simply part of his day. The woman in the village feels the rhythm of her tasks, yet it does not tire her in a heavy way. It is simply part of her life. The child feels the newness of each moment, yet it does not overwhelm him. It is simply the way the world is. And so, within this quiet flow of feeling, where nothing is forced and nothing is held too tightly, the people move through their day with a calm that is steady and deep, a calm that does not come from the absence of life, but from being fully within it. The Nile River continues its endless journey, its surface smooth, its movement gentle, its presence constant, just as these quiet feelings remain, flowing softly beneath each action, shaping the inner life of those who live beside it. And as the afternoon begins once more to move slowly toward evening, this calm remains, unbroken, guiding each step, each breath, each moment in the same gentle and endless rhythm. As the day continues its quiet movement and the light begins once again to soften almost without notice, there is another rhythm present within the village, one that moves more slowly than the passing of a single day, a rhythm that stretches across many seasons and many lives, carried gently through time like the steady flow of the Nile River. This rhythm is not seen in sudden change. It is not marked by clear beginnings or endings. It exists in the way people grow, in the way they learn, in the way they continue the same quiet patterns that have been followed for as long as anyone can remember. In the village, an older man sits in the shade near the edge of a wall, his posture relaxed, his movements slower than those of the younger farmers who continue their work in the fields. His hands rest quietly, the lines in them shaped by many years of steady labor, the surface of his skin marked by time, yet his presence is calm, steady, and complete. He watches, not with urgency, not with concern, but with a quiet awareness that comes from having seen many days pass, many mornings rise and fade, many seasons move through their gentle cycles. Nearby, a younger man works the soil, his movements stronger, his pace steady, his body fully engaged in the task before him. Though they do not speak, there is a connection between them, something that flows quietly from one to the other, a shared understanding that does not need to be explained. The older man has walked the same paths, held the same tools, felt the same soil beneath his hands. The younger man now continues what has always been. Inside the home, an older woman sits beside the doorway, where the light falls softly across the floor, her hands moving slowly as she works with fibers, her movements careful, practiced, shaped by years of repetition. Her pace is gentle now, unhurried, each action deliberate. Nearby, the woman of the house continues her work with steady rhythm, her hands more active, her movements fluid, yet guided by the same patterns, the same quiet knowledge that has been passed down not through words alone, but through presence, through shared moments, through watching and doing. The child moves between them, carrying small items, observing closely, learning in the same quiet way, his understanding growing not through instruction, but through the simple act of being there. He sees how the hands move, how the body rests, how the work continues. These things settle within him slowly, becoming part of him without effort. Along the banks of the Nile River, the same quiet passing of knowledge continues. An older fisherman sits with his net resting beside him, his hands moving slowly as he repairs a small section, tying careful knots, his fingers steady despite the passage of time. Beside him, a younger fisherman watches, then begins to work on another part of the net, his movements less certain, but guided by what he sees. There are few words between them. There is no need for many. The learning happens in silence, in observation, in repetition. The river flows beside them, unchanged, its steady presence connecting these moments across time, just as it has done for countless generations. In the open spaces of the village, children move gently through their small tasks and quiet play, their energy soft, their attention shifting from one moment to the next, unaware of how these simple actions are shaping their future, how they are slowly becoming part of the same rhythm that surrounds them. An older figure passes by, walking slowly, their steps measured, their posture relaxed, and as they move, others make space without thought, a quiet respect that exists naturally, without instruction, without need for explanation. The day continues, the sun moves, the light shifts, and within all of this, time flows in a deeper way, not just from morning to evening, but from one life to another, from one generation to the next. Nothing changes suddenly. There are no sharp endings, only gentle transitions. The younger become older, the older step back, the patterns remain, the tools are passed from one set of hands to another. The knowledge moves quietly, carried not in written form, but in memory, in habit, in the steady repetition of daily life. Inside the house, the older woman pauses, her hands resting, her gaze soft as she looks toward the child, who moves carefully with a small task. There is no need to speak. She sees the continuation. She feels it. The woman beside her continues her work, her movements steady, her presence strong, holding the center of the home, just as others have done before her. Outside, the man in the field continues his work, his movements calm, his body aligned with the land, just as those before him have been, just as those after him will be. The Nile River flows on, its waters carrying the same quiet rhythm through every generation, unchanged by the passage of time, steady and continuous, a silent witness to the lives that unfold beside it. And so, within this slow and gentle passing, where nothing is rushed and nothing is lost, life continues, not as something separate from what came before, but as part of an unbroken flow, calm, steady, and endless, like the river itself. As the quiet rhythm of daily life continues, shaped by the rising and setting of the sun, there is another, deeper rhythm that moves beneath it, one that unfolds over many days and many nights, stretching across the length of the year, guiding the land and the people in ways that are steady and patient, like the long and unbroken flow of the Nile River. This rhythm is not marked by sudden change. It does not arrive all at once. It reveals itself slowly through small differences in the air, in the light, in the way the land responds beneath the hands of those who work it. At certain times, the river begins to rise, not quickly, not with force, but gradually, almost without being seen at first, as the water level increases, spreading outward beyond its usual banks, moving gently into the low fields that rest beside it. The people do not rush in response. They have seen this before. They know this movement. They understand its rhythm. In the early stages, the change is subtle. The edge of the water moves slightly farther than before. The soil near the river grows softer, darker, holding more moisture beneath its surface. The fishermen notice first, their steps adjusting slightly as they stand near the water, their nets cast into a space that feels just a little different. The farmers notice next, their tools meeting soil that has begun to change in texture, becoming richer, heavier, carrying the quiet promise of growth that will come later. The river continues to rise, slowly, steadily, spreading across the land in a calm and patient way, covering areas that once held dry soil, transforming them into shallow waters that reflect the sky above. The village adapts without urgency. Paths shift, steps adjust, work changes. There is no resistance to this, only acceptance, only understanding. The water brings with it fine layers of dark silt, carried from distant places, settling gently across the land, forming a surface that will later support new life, new growth, new harvests. The farmers step back from certain areas, allowing the water to move as it will, their work shifting to other tasks, other spaces, following the natural rhythm rather than forcing against it. Children walk near the edges of the flooded land, their steps careful, their attention drawn to the changing shapes of the water, the reflections, the quiet movement that transforms familiar places into something new. The air feels different during this time. It carries a sense of fullness, of quiet abundance, though nothing has yet been gathered. The land rests beneath the water, absorbing, holding, preparing. The Nile River moves with a deeper presence now, its surface wider, its path expanded, yet its rhythm unchanged, still slow, still steady, still calm. Boats move more easily across areas that were once fields, their paths shifting as the water reshapes the land, their motion smooth and quiet. The fishermen adjust their work, their nets cast in new places, their understanding guided by observation, by patience, by the same steady awareness that shapes all parts of their life. In the village, daily tasks continue, though they follow the changes in the land. The woman continues her work within the home, the grinding of grain, the weaving of fibers, the preparation of food, all steady and unbroken, while outside, the wider world shifts slowly around her. The man moves between the edges of the water and the higher ground, observing, waiting, allowing the land to move through its natural cycle before returning fully to the work of planting. There is no sense of loss in this time, no feeling that something has been taken away. The fields are not gone, they are resting, they are becoming something else for a while. The older members of the village watch this with quiet understanding, their experience holding the memory of many such seasons, many cycles of rising water and returning land. They do not explain this in long words. They do not need to. The rhythm speaks for itself. Time passes. Days move gently forward. The water reaches its fullest spread, covering the low land in a wide and reflective surface, turning the fields into a quiet extension of the river itself. Then, just as slowly as it came, the water begins to recede, not suddenly, not all at once, but gradually, drawing back toward its usual path, leaving behind the dark and fertile soil that will soon be ready once more. The land reappears, soft, rich, renewed. The farmers return, their tools once again meeting the earth, their movements steady, their understanding deep, shaped by the patience required to wait for this moment. Seeds are planted, care is given, the cycle continues. Children watch and learn. The older ones guide without speaking much. The rhythm remains. The air changes again. The light shifts. The days pass. And through it all, the Nile River flows steadily, rising and falling, shaping the land, guiding the seasons, connecting every moment into a single unbroken pattern that stretches far beyond any one day, far beyond any one life. And so, within this slow turning of the year, the people live not against time, but within it, moving gently with the changes, allowing each season to arrive and pass as it will, held always within the calm and endless rhythm of the river.
As the slow cycle of the seasons continues, and the land, once covered gently by the rising waters, now rests firm and dark beneath the soft and steady light of the sun, a quiet transformation begins to show itself across the fields, where small green growth has gradually deepened into something fuller, something ready, something that has been patiently shaped by time and care, beside the ever-present flow of the Nile River. The change does not come suddenly. It reveals itself slowly, just as everything here does. At first, it is only a slight difference in color, the green becoming richer, the texture of the plants growing denser, the movement of the fields shifting as the breeze passes through them. Then, over many days, the signs become clearer. The crops stand taller, their heads fuller, their presence more complete. The farmers notice this without needing to speak. Their hands, their eyes, their quiet attention understand when the time has come. There is no announcement, no marking of the day, only a shared awareness that moves gently through the village. The man steps into the field early in the morning, his movements calm, his body steady, his tool carried lightly in his hand. The light is soft, the air is cool, the plants around him move gently, their forms brushing against one another with a faint and soothing sound. He pauses for a moment, standing still among them, looking across the land, seeing not just what is there, but what has grown over time, what has been cared for, what is now ready to be gathered. Then, slowly, he begins. His hands move carefully, cutting, gathering, placing each bundle with attention, not rushing, not taking more than he can carry comfortably, allowing the work to unfold at a steady and even pace. Nearby, others begin as well. The fields fill with quiet movement, each person working in their own space, their actions similar, their rhythm shared, though no words are needed to guide them. The sound of the harvest is soft, the brushing of plants, the gentle cut of tools, the movement of footsteps across the earth, all of it blending into a calm and steady pattern that feels as natural as the wind passing through the fields. Children walk along the edges, their steps careful, their eyes observing, sometimes helping in small ways, gathering what has been left behind, carrying light bundles, learning through the simple act of being part of the moment. The older members of the village remain nearby, their presence calm, watching, guiding when needed, though most of what is done does not require instruction. It has been seen before, felt before, repeated many times. The sun rises higher and the light grows warmer, though the work continues without urgency, the pace steady, the movements smooth and unforced. Bundles of harvested grain begin to gather in small groups across the fields, placed carefully, arranged with quiet order, each one the result of many days of growth, many moments of care. The air carries a new scent now, dry, warm, rich, the scent of the plants themselves, mixed with the earth beneath them, filling the space with a quiet sense of fullness. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen continue their work as well, though even here there is a subtle awareness of the harvest, a sense that the land and the water are both offering what they hold, each in their own time, each in their own way. The river flows steadily, its surface reflecting the clear sky, its movement unchanged, though its presence feels connected to everything that is happening around it. Back in the village, preparations begin to take shape. Spaces are cleared, surfaces are prepared, simple tools are arranged. The woman continues her work within the home, though now with a slight shift, her attention turning toward what will soon be brought in from the fields. When the man returns, carrying a bundle of grain, his steps steady, his posture relaxed, he places it down carefully, not with effort, but with care, as though acknowledging its presence, its purpose. Others follow. The village fills quietly with the results of the harvest, each bundle placed gently, each movement calm and steady. There is no loud celebration, no sudden change in mood, only a quiet sense of completion, of fulfillment, of something that has come to its natural place. The woman begins to work with the gathered grain, separating, preparing,
her hands moving in the same steady rhythm as before, though now the quantity is greater, the presence fuller. The child watches closely, then helps in small ways, his understanding growing with each action, his connection to the work becoming deeper. The day continues, the sun moves, the light shifts, and the harvest unfolds not as a single event, but as a gentle process that stretches across many hours, many days, each moment part of the same steady rhythm. The fields slowly empty, the village slowly fills, the balance shifts, and through it all the Nile River continues its calm and endless flow, its presence unchanged, its rhythm steady, connecting the growth, the gathering, and the quiet continuation of life. And so, within this time of harvest, there is no rush, no urgency, no excess, only a calm and steady movement, a quiet abundance that is received with care, held with patience, and woven gently into the ongoing rhythm of the day.
As the days of harvest continue to pass in their calm and steady rhythm, and the gathered grain now rests within the village in small, careful piles, another kind of work begins to take shape, slower and more contained, unfolding within the shaded spaces of homes and shared areas, where what has been gathered is gently prepared to last, held safely for the days yet to come, while the steady presence of the Nile River remains nearby, unchanged and constant. This work is not rushed. It does not need to be. The grain has been gathered with care, and now it is treated with the same quiet attention, each step carried out slowly, thoughtfully, without waste. Inside the home, the woman sits beside a low surface, the light entering softly from a small opening, touching the grain before her in a warm and gentle way. Her hands move through it, lifting, sorting, separating, her fingers steady, her movements practiced, removing what is not needed, keeping what is good. The sound is soft, a faint shifting, a quiet brushing, each motion blending into the calm stillness of the room. The child sits close, watching, then reaching forward, his small hands learning the same careful movements, guided not by instruction, but by presence, by the quiet example set before him. He moves slowly, at times uncertain, but patient. The work does not demand perfection, only attention. Outside, in the open spaces of the village, others do the same, small groups working quietly, their actions similar, their pace steady, each person focused, yet aware of those nearby, their movements forming a soft and continuous rhythm across the village. Large woven baskets are filled gradually, not all at once, but over time, each addition placed gently, each layer settled carefully. Nothing is thrown, nothing is forced, everything is handled with care. In another part of the village, a man shapes the opening of a storage space, smoothing the surface, preparing it to hold what will be placed inside, his hands moving slowly, his attention steady, ensuring that everything is ready before the grain is moved. The walls of these spaces are firm, shaped from the same earth that forms the houses, their surfaces cool and dry, designed to protect what is kept within. When the grain is ready, it is carried in small amounts, each movement measured, each step careful, the baskets lifted and set down gently, their contents poured slowly, without haste. The sound is soft, a steady flow, like a quiet echo of the river itself. The Nile River continues to move beyond the village, its presence constant, though the focus of the people now rests more within their immediate space, on what has been gathered, on what must be kept. Inside the home, the woman continues her work, shifting from sorting to grinding, preparing small portions for daily use, while the rest is stored for the future. The grinding stone moves again, its familiar rhythm returning, back and forth,
slow and steady, the grain becoming fine flour once more, ready to be shaped into food. The child helps where he can, carrying small amounts, watching closely, his understanding deepening with each repeated motion. Time moves quietly. There is no urgency in this work. It stretches across the day, across many days, each step part of a longer process that ensures not only the present moment, but the ones that will follow. The air within the home carries the soft scent of grain, warm and grounding, mixed with the faint coolness of the shaded walls. Outside, the village remains calm. The fields, now mostly cleared, rest once more, their surface bare, their work complete for this part of the cycle. The farmers move less within them now, their attention shifting to the village, to the careful work of storing and preparing. The fishermen continue their steady routine along the Nile River, their work unchanged, their rhythm constant, providing what the water offers, just as the land has provided its share. The balance remains. Nothing is taken all at once. Nothing is used without care. Everything is part of a quiet and steady exchange. As the day moves toward its later hours, the work continues without change in pace, the movements becoming even more measured, even more gentle, as the light begins to soften once again. Baskets are covered, openings are sealed, spaces are cleared. Everything is placed with intention, not for display, not for excess, but for use, for necessity, for the quiet continuation of life. Inside the home, the woman pauses, her hands resting for a moment, her gaze soft as she looks over what has been prepared, not with pride, not with relief, but with a calm awareness that the work has been done as it needed to be. The child sits beside her, still and quiet, his small presence part of the same steady rhythm, his understanding growing without effort, shaped by these simple and repeated acts. The man returns, his steps calm, his body at ease, and he looks briefly at what has been stored, his attention quiet, his understanding shared without words. Nothing more needs to be said. The day continues, the light fades slowly, and the work of keeping, of preserving, of preparing for what is yet to come settles gently into the ongoing rhythm of life, just as the Nile River continues its endless flow beside the village, calm, steady, and unchanged.
As the days of harvest and careful storing continue, each one unfolding with the same calm and steady rhythm, the evenings begin to carry a slightly different feeling, not of ending, but of gentle completion, as though each day settles more deeply into rest, while the fading light touches the land and the flowing waters of the Nile River with a softer, more lingering glow. The sun lowers slowly, as it always does, yet the light now seems to rest a little longer on the fields, as if acknowledging the work that has been done, the soil now cleared, the grain gathered, the surface of the land open and still. The farmers return from the fields with slower steps, their bodies not burdened, but eased by the steady work that has filled their days, their movements calm, their breathing even, their presence quiet. There is no need to speak of what has been accomplished. It is visible. It is felt. The empty fields hold the memory of growth, of care, of time passed gently, and now they rest, just as the people do. In the village, the air begins to cool once more, the warmth of the day softening, replaced by a gentle breeze that moves through the narrow paths, carrying with it the familiar scent of earth, of grain, and of the nearby Nile River. The sounds of the day begin to fade, the steady motions of work slow, and then come to rest. Baskets are set aside, tools are placed carefully in their spaces. Hands that have moved continuously now pause, resting lightly, holding stillness without effort. Inside the home,
The woman completes her final tasks, her hands moving with the same calm precision, though her pace is slower now, her movements softer, as though they are naturally easing into the quiet of the evening. The child sits close, his energy settled, his movements gentle, watching the shifting light that enters the room, the shadows growing longer, the brightness fading into a softer tone. The man steps inside, his presence quiet, his posture relaxed, and for a moment he stands still, allowing the calm of the space to settle around him, the steady rhythm of the day now giving way to stillness. A small fire is prepared. Its flame rises gently, casting a warm and flickering light that moves softly across the walls, creating a quiet sense of comfort within the space. The evening meal is simple, as it always is, yet it carries a quiet fullness, shaped by the work of many days, by the care taken in the fields, by the steady process of gathering and keeping. They sit together, close, calm, their movements slow, their attention present, each action unfolding without haste. Outside, the village becomes quieter with each passing moment. People return to their homes, their steps soft, their voices low or absent, the shared spaces emptying gently as the day draws inward. Along the banks of the Nile River, the last movements of the fishermen come to a close, their nets gathered, their tools carried back, their presence fading into the quiet of the evening. The river continues to move, its surface reflecting the last light of the sky, now turning from gold into deeper shades, its gentle flow unchanged, steady as ever. The sky above begins to shift. The bright light softens into warm tones, then slowly into deeper colors, the horizon holding a quiet glow before giving way to the approaching night. A breeze passes through the village, cooler now, carrying away the warmth of the day, replacing it with a calm and refreshing air that signals the return of rest. Inside the home, the meal comes to an end. There is no rush to arise, no need to move quickly. They remain seated for a moment longer, allowing the quiet to settle fully, allowing the day to fade gently without interruption. The child leans close, his body relaxed, his eyes growing heavy, his breathing slow and steady. The woman clears the simple items with soft and careful movements, placing them aside, her actions unhurried, her presence calm. The man sits quietly, his hands resting, his gaze soft, not fixed on any one thing, but open, aware, present within the stillness. Outside, the light fades further, the sky deepens, the first stars begin to appear once more, small and steady, returning in their quiet and familiar pattern. The Nile River reflects this change, its surface darkening, its movement continuing without pause, carrying the calm of the day into the quiet of the night. The sounds of the village grow faint, then softer still, until only the gentle presence of night remains. And so, as the evening settles fully, shaped by the quiet completion of the day's work, the village returns once more to rest, held within the same steady rhythm that has guided every moment, from the first light of morning to this calm and peaceful end.
As the evening settles fully into night and the last traces of light fade from the horizon, the village rests once more beneath a wide and open sky, where the stars return in quiet patterns, steady and unchanging, while the calm waters of the Nile River continue their slow and endless movement through the darkness. The air is cooler now, soft, still, carrying with it the faint scent of harvested grain, of earth that has been turned and touched, of work that has been completed and gently set aside. Inside the homes, the small fires burn low, their light dim and steady, casting soft shadows that move slowly along the walls before settling into stillness. The man lies down upon the woven mat, his body at ease, the quiet weight of the day resting lightly within him, not as a burden, but as a natural part of the rhythm that has carried him from morning to night. His breathing is slow, even, steady. Beside him the woman rests as well, her hands now still, her body relaxed, her presence calm, allowing the quiet of the night to surround her completely. The child sleeps deeply, his small form peaceful, his breath soft and regular, untouched by the passing of time, held gently within the stillness. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps pass along the narrow paths, no voices rise, no tools move. Only the faint, distant sounds of the night remain, soft and scattered, blending into the calm without breaking it. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water flows as it always has, its surface dark, reflecting the scattered light of the stars, its movement steady, unchanging, a quiet presence that continues without interruption. A gentle ripple forms, then fades. The sound of water touching the shore is soft and rhythmic, like a quiet breath that rises and falls without end. The fields, now cleared and resting, lie in darkness, their surface smooth and still, holding the memory of the harvest, the presence of growth now replaced by quiet emptiness that is not lacking but complete. The land rests, the people rest, everything returns to stillness. The air moves lightly through the village, passing over the walls of the houses, across the open spaces, carrying with it a cool and gentle touch that settles softly against the skin. Above, the stars remain steady, their light distant yet constant, forming patterns that have been seen many times, yet never need to be followed or understood. They simply are. Time passes in a way that cannot be measured here. There are no markers, no divisions, only the quiet flow from one moment into the next, as natural as the movement of the Nile River itself. Inside the home, the fire fades further, its glow now only a faint presence, a soft warmth that lingers without light. The darkness grows deeper, though it does not feel empty, it feels full, complete. The breathing of those who sleep becomes the only sound within the space, a slow and steady rhythm that matches the calm of the world outside. Dreams move quietly through the night, shaped by the simple moments of the day, the steady work of hands, the soft light of the fields, the gentle flow of the river. There is no disturbance, no interruption, only peace. Beyond the village, the land stretches outward, quiet and still, connected to distant places that remain unseen, yet part of the same vast and silent world. The Nile River continues its journey through this darkness, linking one place to another, one moment to the next, its presence unchanged by the passage of time. The night deepens, then slowly, almost without being noticed, it begins to soften. The air shifts, the stars fade, the darkness lightens at its edges. The cycle continues. Inside the home, the man stirs slightly, not yet waking, but moving gently within the final moments of rest.
The woman shifts as well, her breathing changing just slightly, her body preparing without effort for the return of the day. The child remains still, though his sleep begins to grow lighter, closer to waking. Outside, a faint sound appears, a single bird, soft, brief, then silence again. The horizon begins to change, holding the faintest hint of light, a pale gray that slowly spreads, touching the edge of the sky. The Nile River reflects this change first, its surface shifting from deep darkness into a softer tone, its movement unchanged. The night is not gone, but it is no longer complete. And so, as the deep quiet of the harvest night gently gives way to the first signs of another morning, the village remains held within the same steady rhythm, where each ending is also a beginning, and each moment flows seamlessly into the next.
As the faint light of early morning returns once again, and the horizon slowly fills with a soft and quiet glow, the village begins to wake, though not with the same steady urgency of the days before. For now there is a gentler rhythm in the air, a slower movement that follows the time of harvest, while the calm waters of the Nile River continue to reflect the rising light. The stars fade gradually. The sky opens. The air remains cool and still, carrying a softness that lingers longer than before, as though the land itself is resting after the quiet fullness of the harvest. Inside the house, the man wakes slowly, his eyes opening without effort, his body already at ease, not carrying the same steady weight of fieldwork that has filled so many days. He remains still for a moment, listening. The sounds of morning are present, but softer. Fewer footsteps, less movement. The rhythm has changed. He sits up gently, his movements calm, his breath steady, and steps outside into the cool air, where the light spreads slowly across the village, touching the walls, the paths, and the open spaces that now feel more still. The fields beyond rest quietly, cleared, open, their surface smooth and undisturbed, holding no immediate demand for work, only a quiet presence, waiting for the next cycle in its own time. He walks, not toward urgent labor, but toward the familiar path that leads to the Nile River, his steps unhurried, his body relaxed, his attention open to the small details around him. The ground beneath his feet is cool, the air fresh, the light soft and pale. At the riverbank he pauses, as he always does, looking out across the wide water, which now reflects the early morning sky in gentle tones of gray and gold. He kneels and places his hands into the water. The coolness is the same, unchanging. He lifts it slowly, letting it fall across his skin, marking the beginning of the day, though this beginning feels quieter, less defined by work, more shaped by stillness. Nearby, a few others arrive, though fewer than before. Their movements are calm, their presence quiet, their actions familiar, yet without urgency. They gather in silence, then move on. Back in the village, the woman begins her morning tasks, though her pace is slower, her movements softer, as though she is allowing the day to unfold without pressing into it. The grinding stone moves again, but not for as long, not with the same continuous rhythm, only enough for what is needed now. The child wakes and steps outside, his eyes adjusting to the light, his body relaxed, his energy calm, without the need to follow a strict pattern. He walks through the village slowly, observing, his steps light, his attention drawn to small things, a line in the dust, a shape in the wall, the way the light touches the ground. In the open spaces, people move gently,
their tasks smaller, their actions fewer, their time more open, allowing moments of stillness to remain longer between movements. A man sits in the shade, repairing a tool with careful hands, his pace steady, his attention focused, yet without pressure. A woman arranges fibers in a basket, her movements slow, pausing often, her hands resting between actions. Children sit together quietly, their presence calm, their voices soft, if they speak at all. Along the banks of the Nile River, the fishermen continue their work, though even here there is a sense of ease, a rhythm that feels less bound to time, more open, more relaxed. The river flows as it always has, steady, unchanging, its presence a quiet reminder that everything moves in its own time. The sun rises higher, though the warmth feels gentle, not pressing, not demanding. The light spreads across the village, touching the resting fields, the walls of the houses, the quiet figures moving through their day. The man returns from the river and sits for a short time outside his home, not yet moving into work, simply resting, his gaze soft, his breath steady. There is no need to fill this moment. It is complete as it is. Inside, the woman pauses as well, her hands still, her attention resting in the quiet space of the room, where the air feels calm and undisturbed. The child moves between inside and outside, his steps unhurried, his presence light, his awareness open. The day unfolds slowly, without urgency, without pressure, each moment stretching gently into the next. The Nile River continues to flow beside them, unchanged, its rhythm steady, its presence constant, holding the same quiet movement that has guided every part of their lives. And within this slower day, where the work is lighter and the spaces between actions are wider, there is a deeper calm, a gentle stillness that settles over the village, allowing everything to rest, to breathe, to simply be.
As the slower days after the harvest continue to unfold, and the wide spaces between tasks remain open and unfilled, the rhythm of life gently turns toward quieter forms of activity, where hands still move, but not always for necessity, and where time allows for small acts of making, shaped by patience, care, and a calm presence that mirrors the steady flow of the Nile River. The morning passes softly. The light settles across the village without urgency. The air remains gentle. And within this stillness, people begin to work in ways that are slower, more reflective, guided not only by need, but by the quiet rhythm of their own hands. In a shaded space near the edge of the village, the potter sits once more before his wheel. The clay rests beside him, soft and cool, shaped by water and earth, waiting without demand. He places his hands upon it and begins to turn the wheel slowly. There is no rush. The motion is steady, even. The clay rises beneath his touch, responding gently, forming shapes that are simple and smooth, each curve guided by a careful and practiced hand. The sound is soft, a quiet turning, a steady hum of motion that blends into the calm of the day. He pauses often, looking, adjusting, allowing the form to settle before continuing. Each piece is made slowly, not many, just enough. Nearby, the woman sits with her fibers, weaving them into cloth with the same steady rhythm she has followed many times before, though now her pace is even softer, her movements more spaced, her attention resting fully in each motion. The threads pass through her fingers, back and forth, over and under. The pattern grows gradually, without force, without urgency, forming something that will be used, yet also something that carries the quiet presence of the time in which it was made.
The child sits nearby, watching closely, then gathering small strands, attempting to follow the same pattern, his hands moving carefully, his focus deep, his learning guided by observation and gentle repetition. In another part of the village, a man works with wood, shaping a simple tool, his movements slow, his attention steady, the surface beneath his hands changing gradually, each small adjustment made with care. He pauses often, running his fingers along the shape, feeling the texture, sensing where it needs to be smoothed, where it needs to remain as it is. The work is quiet, measured, unforced. Children move through these spaces, sometimes joining, sometimes simply watching, their presence light, their attention shifting between moments of stillness and small acts of participation. They gather bits of clay, small pieces of fiber, fragments of wood, holding them, turning them, learning how things feel, how they respond, how they can be shaped. Along the banks of the Nile River, the same quiet sense of making continues in a different form, as fishermen repair their nets, their hands moving through the fine threads, tying knots, adjusting spaces, ensuring that each part is ready for the next use. The motion is repetitive, steady, calm, each knot placed with care, each section completed without haste. The river flows beside them, its movement soft and continuous, reflecting the light of the day, carrying its steady presence through every moment. The air remains still, touched only by a gentle breeze that passes from time to time, moving lightly through the village, lifting small particles of dust, shifting the edges of cloth, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and water. Inside the home, the woman sets aside her weaving for a moment, her hands resting in her lap, her gaze soft as she looks at what has been made. There is no need to measure it, no need to judge it. It is complete in its own way. She returns to it slowly, adding a few more lines, then pausing again. The man sits nearby, working quietly with a simple tool, adjusting its form, his movements steady, his attention calm, his presence part of the same quiet rhythm. The child moves between them, carrying small pieces, observing, touching, learning through the gentle repetition of these moments. Time passes without notice. The sun moves higher, then begins its slow descent. The light shifts, the shadows lengthen, and through it all, these quiet acts of making continue, not as work that must be completed quickly, but as a natural extension of life, as something that fills the day softly, without pressure. Nothing is made in excess, nothing is created without purpose, and yet within each simple object there is a quiet expression, a reflection of the calm and steady rhythm that shapes every part of life here. The Nile River flows on, unchanged, its presence constant, its movement steady, as these small acts of creation unfold beside it, just as they have for many days, many seasons, many generations. And so, within this slower time, where the hands move gently and the mind remains calm, the people continue to shape their world in small and quiet ways, each action part of the same endless rhythm, steady, soft, and unbroken.
As the slow and quiet day begins to draw gently toward its end, and the light of the sun lowers once more across the wide and open land, there is a calm sense of completion that settles over the village, not as something final, but as something that returns again and again, like the steady and endless flow of the Nile River. The shadows grow longer, the warmth softens, the air begins to cool in a gentle and familiar way. Nothing changes quickly, everything moves slowly, just as it always has. In the open spaces between the homes, the quiet acts of making come to rest. The potter slows the turning of his wheel, his hands easing away from the clay, leaving the final shape as it is, complete in its own simple form. The weaver sets her threads aside, her fingers resting, the pattern unfinished, yet not incomplete, ready to continue another day. The man working with wood places his tool down gently, his hands still for a moment, his work paused, not ended. There is no need to finish everything. There is always time. Children drift back toward their homes, their steps soft, their voices quiet, their presence calm as the light fades around them. Some carry small objects they have gathered, some carry nothing at all, each one moving gently, without hurry, guided by the quiet rhythm of the evening. Inside the home, the woman prepares the final meal of the day, her movements slow and steady, her hands shaping and placing, her attention calm and focused. The scent of food rises softly, filling the space with a quiet warmth that feels both familiar and grounding. The child sits nearby, his body relaxed, his eyes following the small movements of the fire, the way the light shifts and flickers against the walls. The man steps inside and pauses, as he has done many times before, allowing the calm of the space to settle around him, his presence soft, his breathing steady. They sit together, close, quiet, their meal simple, their movements slow, each action unfolding gently, without need for words, without need for thought. Outside, the village grows still, the paths empty, the sounds of the day fade into silence. Along the banks of the Nile River, the last light of the sun touches the water, spreading across its surface in soft and fading colors before slowly disappearing. The river continues to move, as it always has, carrying the reflection of the sky, then the quiet of the night. The sky deepens, the colors soften into darker tones. The first stars begin to appear, small and steady, returning in their quiet and endless pattern. A breeze moves gently through the village, cooler now, carrying the scent of earth and water, of grain and dust, of all the quiet moments that have passed through the day. Inside the home, the meal comes to an end. The woman clears the simple items with soft and careful movements. The child leans gently, his body already drifting toward sleep. The man sits for a moment longer, his hands resting, his gaze calm, not fixed on anything, simply present. The fire burns low, its light softens, the room grows dim. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps, no voices, only the faint and distant sounds of the night blending into the stillness. The Nile River flows on in the darkness, its movement steady, unchanged, a quiet presence that continues beyond the day, beyond the night, beyond the passing of time. One by one they lie down, their bodies rest, their breathing slow. The quiet deepens. The stars fill the sky above, steady and distant, watching over the land that lies still beneath them. Time moves gently forward, without urgency, without end. And as the night settles fully, wrapping the village in its calm and quiet embrace, the rhythm continues, unseen yet always present, carrying each moment into the next, just as it always has. There is no final ending, only this soft fading, the gentle passing of one day into another, the quiet breath of life, moving steadily, endlessly, like the flowing waters of the Nile River. And within that steady flow, everything rests,
Everything continues. Everything simply is.